Chapter 1183. The Saint's Fruit? What's that? The heavenly enchantress asked in doubt. The Saint's Fruit is a sacred item of our Tianyuan continent. It's a treasure that only belongs to us humans. The sixth elder possessed an extremely detailed understanding of the Saint's Fruit. He knew no less than the great elders of the protector clans. Afterward, he told the heavenly enchantress everything he knew about the Saint's Fruit. Wow, it's so powerful. A heavenly resource can actually allow a holy emperor to become a holy emperor. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu immediately cried out when they heard about the Saint's Fruit's heaven-defying effects. Their faces were filled with amazement, and even Qin Qin was no exception. She had become dumbfounded. The heavenly enchantress looked around and said in thought, "No wonder I sensed a holy emperor's presence from afar a few days ago, spreading across the entire continent. I originally thought that a new holy emperor had appeared on the Tianyuan continent, but I never thought that it was actually because of the appearance of the Saint's Fruit. It's a pity that I was in the ancient medicine village at that time, and it just happened to be a crucial moment in the refinement of the Heaven's Heart Lotus. In order to prevent any accidents from happening during the refinement process, I could only wait there. Otherwise, I definitely would have gone to have a look." The heavenly enchantress looked at the sixth elder and continued, "Sixth elder, are you saying that the Saint's Fruit can truly allow Xiao Bao to undergo a complete transformation and break free from his current state of being unable to cultivate?" The Saint's Fruit is a supreme sacred item in the world. Its wondrous and powerful effects cannot be doubted. Since even a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource is useless to this boy, only the Saint's Fruit can help him. It's just that, sigh. The sixth elder hesitated and shook his head helplessly. Sixth elder, just what? The heavenly enchantress stared at the sixth elder with her enchanting eyes. She seemed rather nervous. It's just that the Saint's Fruit already has an owner, and the person who obtained it is definitely not an ordinary person. Even the 10 protector clans of the continent can't do anything to him. It's impossible for you to obtain the Saint's Fruit. The sixth elder looked up at the sky and sighed. In his mind, he could not help but think of the legend about that person. I must say that he really is an unprecedented genius. Not only is he a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master, but he has also reached an unreachable level as a fighter. The sixth elder sighed inside. His feelings were rather mixed. The heavenly enchantress expression did not change. It was as if the sixth elder's description of the expert that even the protector clan could not deal with did not affect her at all. She asked, "Sixth elder, may I ask who this person is? The holy emperor of the human race? Or the holy emperor of the orcs?" "Neither." The sixth elder shook his head. "This person isn't old. He only made a name for himself recently. Shangguan Mu, you spend most of your time on 3 Saint Island and rarely set foot on the Tianyuan continent, so you definitely don't know this person. His name is Genshin." A gleam of light flashed through the heavenly enchantress' eyes when she heard that. Her expression immediately changed. "What? This person is called Genshin? Don't tell me he's the young master Genshin we know." Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu immediately stood up as shock filled their faces. Qin Qin was surprised as well. She immediately took out a painting from her space ring and unfurled it. She asked rather excitedly, "Esteemed Radiant Saint Master, please take a look and see if it's this person." On the scroll was a portrait of Genshin. The artist's technique was extremely solid, and the drawing was so lifelike that it seemed like a real person. Qin Qin had once drawn the painting in the Tianqin clan and had kept it until now. "Yes, it's him. I do know Genshin." This time, it was the sixth elder's turn to be surprised. His gaze toward Qin Qin changed as well. He had never thought that a weak woman like her would actually carry a portrait of Genshin with her. Moreover, from how lifelike the portrait was, he was certain that the person who had drawn it had interacted with Genshin in the past and had spent quite some time with him. "Ah, no way. It really is young Master Genshin." Since when has young Master Jianqin become so powerful? Even the protector clans can't do anything to him. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu's jaws dropped as disbelief filled their faces. The heavenly enchantress stared at the person in the painting blankly. Her emotions were extremely mixed as she struggled to remain calm. Very soon, the heavenly enchantress shifted her gaze away from the painting. Her eyes became icy cold once again. After a moment of thought, she said, "I need to go to the Tianyuan continent immediately. Sixth Elder, thank you for your assistance this time. May I ask if you want to stay on 3 Saint Island or return to the Tianyuan continent with me?" "I think it's best if I return to the Tianyuan continent. Many experts were heavily injured in the battle for the Saint's Fruit. Many Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters have been invited away by the various clans. Our union is in need of people right now. So it's best if I return," said the 6th Elder. The bright moon divine hall continued to hover above the Changyang clan in Lore City in the Jessin Kingdom. However, the atmosphere within the Changyang clan was rather solemn. There were clearly many more guards patrolling the area, and the experts hidden everywhere had increased by several times as well. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's wounds had been healed by the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force, so he had made a full recovery. However, even though he was still alive, he lived in deep sorrow. His mind wandered all day long, and he was in extremely low spirits. Everything that had happened in the Protector clan was still fresh in his mind. It had an extremely heavy impact on his heart, leaving behind irreparable wounds. That was his home, the place where he had been born and raised. He had special feelings for that place, but now he knew that he would probably never be able to return. Changyang Zuyun stayed by Changyang Zuyunxiao's side. She did not say anything to comfort him. She only quietly waited by his side. Changyang Zuyunkong's return had made up for Changyang Zuyun's pain of missing her son, allowing her mind to reach perfection. Her soul increased bit by bit every day, and she was about to break through to Holy Emperor. Jianqin did not tell anyone else about what had happened in the Protector clan. He did not even tell his parents. He only made up a random excuse to fool them. After all, the matter this time had been rather large. Not only had he offended a Protector clan, but he had also offended a group of ancestors who possessed frightening seniority in Changyang Ba and the others. He did not want this matter to cause trouble for his parents. Jianqin, Yu Yu, and Tai Ta gathered together in the most majestic hall in Changyang Prefecture. Jianqin had completely recovered now. He wore luxurious robes embroidered with golden threads, which made him seem like a young master of a large clan. "Jianqin, the Changyang Prefecture has gone too far. They've actually treated you like this. Fortunately, my master informed me in time that you were in danger, or—" Yu was furious. She felt a lingering fear whenever she thought about what had happened to Jianqin. She secretly rejoiced that she had arrived in time. "I will have my revenge sooner or later." Jianqin was emotionless. His voice was rather heavy as he hid an extremely powerful killing intent inside. This time he had almost died. If Yu had not arrived in time with the bright moon divine hall, the consequences would have been unthinkable. He obviously would not have been able to keep the saint's fruit that he had spent so much effort to obtain. Now that Tai Ta's identity has been exposed, I think Changyang Qinyin and the others will definitely do something, Jianqin said with a heavy voice as the light in his eyes flickered. "Jianqin, why don't you get Tai Ta to hide in the bright moon divine hall? The bright moon divine hall is far tougher than any other divine hall. Even the experts of the Protector clans won't dare to force their way in," Yu suggested. She had gained some understanding of Tai Ta's identity from Jianqin. "Fourth young master, there's a secret letter that you need to personally open." At this moment, a guard's voice rang out from outside. "Send it in," Jianqin ordered. The door was gently pushed open, and a guard carefully held a letter with both hands. He bowed slightly as he walked in from outside, directly passing the letter to Jianqin. Jianchen read the letter, and his face immediately sank. He exerted force in his hand, and strands of chaotic force surged out of his hand. With a bang, the secret letter in his hand exploded and turned into dust. Jianchen, what did the letter say to make you so angry? Yu asked in concern. A sliver of worry appeared on her face. Chapter 1184. Changyang Qinyin has gone too far. He's actually threatened you with something like that. He's no different from a shameless person. He doesn't deserve to be a great elder of a protector clan. Yu said with righteous indignation. The saint's fruit had been obtained by Jianchen through great effort with the assistance of Ruijin. Heiyu and Heiyu. Logically speaking, it should have belonged to Jianchen. Yet, Changyang Qinyin, as the greatest great elder of a protector clan and Jianchen Sr., had actually done something so despicable. Yu became very angry as well. Tai Ta's expression became very ugly as well. After a moment of silence, he seemed to have made up his mind. He gritted his teeth and said, Jianchen, I'd better leave this place. Otherwise, once Changyang Qinyin really does unite all the experts from the Beast God continent and the Tianyuan continent, you'll be dragged in as well. I've already learned quite a few of the mysteries of war, so even if I can't defeat them, I can run away. Jianchen raised his hand to stop Tai Ta's suggestion without any hesitation. He stared at Tai Ta with a reproachful gaze and said, Tai Ta, don't mention something like that again. The protector clans are very powerful, but it's not enough for us to fear them. Even if they unite all the experts from the 2 continents, will they really be able to kill us? Tai Ta, don't be discouraged. Don't forget that we still have the Bright Moon Divine Hall. My master said that the Divine Hall is so tough that even the Holy Emperor can't break through it. At the same time, the formation she cast down in the Divine Hall back then is a supreme killing formation that can easily kill even the Holy Emperor. As long as we have the Bright Moon Divine Hall, they won't be able to do anything to us, even if they unite all the experts from the 2 continents. Yu said complacently. She couldn't hide the excitement in her heart because she finally had the ability to help Jianchen. She could share Jianchen's worries. To her, this was a very significant matter. At this moment, Jianchen's expression changed. He suddenly turned his head and looked into the distance. His gaze seemed to be able to see the situation outside through the obstacles of the house. His eyes flashed with a divine light. Immediately, Tai Ta's expression changed, and he stood up abruptly. A strong fighting spirit was boiling in his heart. He said in a low, muffled voice, Jianchen, the people from Changyang Prefecture are attacking us. Jianchen shook his head with a hint of doubt in his eyes. Tai Ta, calm down. Things might not be what you think. Let's go out and take a look first. At this moment, there was a large group of people flying in the air outside of Lore City. They were slowly making their way into the city at a moderate speed. There were several hundred of them. This spectacular scene in the sky was witnessed by the people of Lore City. Once again, it caused a huge commotion in the city. Everyone who saw this scene was completely stunned. Everyone knew that anyone who could fly was a Heaven Saint Master without exception. There were only a dozen or so of such experts in the entire kingdom of Jessin, and there were even a few who had only appeared in recent years. Every single one of them possessed an extremely high status in the kingdom of Jessin, where they were on equal footing with the king. They rarely showed themselves. Yet now they had seen several hundred people who could fly in the sky all of a sudden. The shock that this caused could not be any greater. The group of people in the sky directly flew toward Changyang Prefecture. In the end, they all descended at the entrance of Changyang Prefecture. All the authoritative people of Changyang Prefecture had already gathered at the entrance. They all stood there quietly, and no one said anything. The person at the very front was the gloomy Changyang Zhu Yinshao. Changyang Zhu Yeyun accompanied him closely. Behind them were Jianchen, Yu, Tai Ta, and the patriarch of Changyang Prefecture, Changyang Ba. Among the several hundred people flying in from outside the city The old man at the very front was the great elder of the Changyang Protector clan. He was the person with the highest seniority in the Zhu branch, Changyang Zushao. Changyang Zushao was rather dispirited right now. His face was filled with loneliness, helplessness, and pain. In a daze, he seemed to have aged even more. Among the several hundred people behind Changyang Zushao, there were both young and old. There were both strong and weak people. The strong ones were saint rulers, while the weak ones were young men and children. They were not even earth saint masters. They had all been carried by their seniors. But among them, all of the older people had expressions that were filled with a dense sense of loneliness. Their expressions were dim, and their eyes were dull. "Great-grandfather, what's going on?" Changyang Zuyin suppressed the pain in his heart and asked in doubt. "Sigh." Changyang Zu let out a long sigh. Tears flickered in his aged eyes, and he said, I can't stay any longer after something like this has happened to the clan. I've already left Changyang Prefecture. The people behind me are all people from the Zhu branch who are willing to leave Changyang Prefecture with me. Most of them are staying in Changyang Prefecture." Changyang Zuyin violently trembled when he heard that. He immediately clenched his fists tightly before slowly releasing them a while later. He sighed at the sky and said, "It's good that you're leaving. It's good that you're leaving." On that day, several hundred people immediately joined Changyang Prefecture in Lore City. However, all of them possessed extraordinary statuses. They were all clansmen of the Protector clan in Changyang Prefecture, and there were over a dozen saint rulers among them. Even within the Protector clan, they possessed a certain level of status. Most of the saint rulers of the Zhu branch had chosen to follow Changyang Zushao when he left Changyang Prefecture this time. Only an extremely small number of them chose to remain in Changyang Prefecture. However, the few hundred people who had left Changyang Prefecture were less than 1/100th of the total population of the Zhu branch. Fortunately, Changyang Prefecture was extremely large after the reconstruction. Even with the addition of several hundred people, it did not seem crowded at all. Changyang Ba had taken care of the people properly, so Changyang Zu naturally became the person with the highest status there. Jianchen was touched by Changyang Zhu's actions. He felt warmth fill his heart. He knew that he was not alone in the Protector clan. At the very least, the people of the Zhu branch stood by his side. Changyang Zu did not mention the matter of the saint's fruit at all. After visiting Changyang Zu Jianchen directly went to where Ruijin, Honglian, and Blackfish resided. At this moment, Heiyu sat on the bed. His face was dark, and the poison in his body still had not been purged. The saint artifact had turned into a fist-sized pagoda that hovered beside him. It slowly revolved, shining with a hazy golden light. Honglian and Ruijin sat nearby with bitter faces. They frowned and thought, "Senior Blackfish, how are you? Has the poison still not been purged?" Jianchen's heart immediately tightened when he saw Blackfish's still dark complexion. Chapter 1185. What? A poison that even the artifact spirit can't neutralize? How can there be such an unbelievable poison on the Tian Yuan continent? Jianchen was shocked by Blackfish's words. Disbelief flooded his face. Honglian and I have tidied up our inherited memories. We were unable to find any information about the poison in Blackfish's body, so there's nothing we can do about it, Ruijin said in a heavy voice. Ruijin said with a deep voice. He had an extremely deep relationship with Heiyu, so he felt very uncomfortable that Heiyu was in such a dangerous situation. The room fell silent for a moment. None of the four of them said anything. They all felt very heavy inside. Ruijin and Honglian did not know about the poison, and even the Radiant Saint Force origin energy that the artifact spirit could not neutralize it. The poison had exceeded all of their imaginations. Honglian thought about it and said, "I can vaguely remember that the people who poisoned Blackfish were a few Holy Emperor experts. They're probably from a Protector clan. A protector clan, Jianchen murmured. A gleam of light flashed through his eyes, and he said, I'll go invite great-grandfather Changyang Zushao over. He's also a member of a protector clan, so he's experienced and knowledgeable. He might be able to do something. With that, Jianchen immediately went to invite Changyang Zushao. Before long, the rather haggard Changyang Zushao arrived with Jianchen where Ruijin, Honglian, and Heijin were resting. Changyang Zushao stared at Blackfish for a while before gradually frowning. He said with a heavy voice, I recognize this poison. It's the unique technique of the Heaven's Incense School, the poison of Heaven's End. The poison of Heaven's End? Then how do we neutralize it? Ruijin quickly arrived beside Changyang Zushao and asked nervously. He was extremely worried. It's rumored that the poison of Heaven's End can even kill a holy emperor. There's no other way to neutralize it other than finding the antidote, said Changyang Zushao. If that's the case, I'll kill my way to the Heaven's Incense School right now. A powerful battle intent radiated from Ruijin. In order to obtain the antidote and save Blackfish, he had to go even if it was a dragon's den or a tiger's den. No, you can't be reckless. I admire your strength. If it was outside, it would be very difficult for the people of the protector clans to be your opponent unless they use emperor armaments. However, you might not be able to gain the upper hand in the protector clan's headquarters because it's a place where even a holy emperor can't break through. However, you might not have any advantage in the protector clanses. The bright moon divine hall would not have been able to break in so easily and retreat so easily if it weren't for the great internal turmoil that occurred in Changyang Prefecture last time, said Changyang Zushao. Senior Ruijin, we must go to the Heaven's Incense School, but we need to make sure we're prepared. After all, we won't be clashing with the protector clans outside this time. We'll be in their territory, so they'll have the advantage, said Jianchen. Ruijin had been rather impulsive earlier, but he was not a reckless person. He felt that what Jianchen and Changyang Zushao had said made sense, so he said, all right then, let's make preparations as soon as possible in the next 2 days. We have to set off as soon as possible. Blackfish can't last much longer. Changyang Zushao nodded. You can only deal with this matter yourselves. Although Yun Xiao and I have already left Changyang Prefecture, it's still inconvenient for us to directly assist you. With that, Changyang Zushao paused. He looked at Jianchen strangely and said, and you better think of a way to deal with your friend as soon as possible. Once the people of the Tianyuan continent learn about the war god, they'll never let him go. At that time, it won't just be the experts of the Tianyuan continent. Maybe even the experts of the beast god continent will hunt him down. After all, both the Tianyuan continent and the beast god continent had deep grievances with the war god in ancient times. Changyang Qingyan has already sent a letter to me. He wants me to use the saint's fruit to buy the secret of Taita's identity, said Jianchen. Changyang Zushao sank into his thoughts. After a while of thought, he said, looks like Changyang Qingyan probably won't reveal the fact that he's the war god of the 100 races in a short amount of time. We need to stabilize him first. I'll immediately send someone back to tell him that if he wants the saint's fruit, he needs to keep it a secret. This method may be able to keep him busy temporarily, but it won't last long. Actually, we already have a plan to deal with Taita's safety. When the time comes, all he needs to do is hide in the bright moon divine hall and he'll be safe. Even the holy emperor won't be able to threaten him, said Changyang Zushao. There were only 2 safest places for Taita right now. One was Mercenary City, and the other was the bright moon divine hall. However, Jianchen understood even more clearly that he could hide in Mercenary City before Taita's identity was exposed, but he definitely could not go there now that his identity had been exposed, let alone whether the other powerful elders of Mercenary City would object. Even if Mercenary City was willing to protect Taita, they would be despised by all the people of the continent. They would no longer be able to maintain their sacred status. Jianchen had considered letting Taita return to the 100 races as well, But this was no different from suicide in his eyes. Although he had never been to the 100 races and did not understand their strength, he still roughly knew that they were nowhere near as powerful as the Tianyuan continent. They could not even fend off the Tianyuan continent with their weak strength, let alone fend off the combined attacks of the Tianyuan continent and Beast God continent. In short, it was impossible for the people of the Tianyuan continent and Beast God continent to let Tai Ta return to normal. Once Tai Ta's strength surpassed the level of the Holy Emperor, no one in the world would be able to fend him off other than the young winged tiger. The creator of the Bright Moon Divine Hall, Fairy Haoyue, was the greatest person under the Holy Emperor back then. The records say that she had already reached the brink of surpassing the Holy Emperor, but she failed to break through in the end. Her Bright Moon Divine Hall was forged from special materials from the moon, so it's extraordinary. Even the Holy Emperor was unable to damage it at all. Hiding in the Bright Moon Divine Hall is indeed a good idea, but at that time you'll need to take everyone in the Changyang Prefecture into the Divine Hall, as well as everyone related to you. Otherwise, I'm worried that some people will use the people you're familiar with to threaten you, Changyang Zushao said rather sternly. Jian Chen's face changed slightly. He said, with a deep voice, "Then the flame mercenaries will be rather troublesome. With the current scale of the flame mercenaries, their total population is probably over 1 million, and many of them are scattered everywhere. It'll be extraordinarily difficult to take all of them into the Bright Moon Divine Hall. At the same time, Fairy Haoyue is still alive. Her soul still exists, and she can completely control the Bright Moon Divine Hall. If Fairy Haoyue refuses to take so many people into the Divine Hall, then you might as well just let me seal up the Protector clans," Ruijin suddenly said. "What, you have the ability to seal up the Protector clans?" Changyang Zushao was astounded. He stared at Ruijin in disbelief. Ruijin nodded. "My dragon clan possesses many supreme, secret techniques. There's a secret technique that can seal up a region of space. Although the Protector clans stay in their own miniature worlds, the entrance to the miniature world remains the same. I can use the secret technique to seal up the entrance to the outside world, so they won't be able to come out. They won't be able to use any secret techniques to send messages either." "Fantastic. We don't need to worry about Tai Ta's identity being exposed like that. Senior Ruijin, when can we set off to seal up the entrance to Changyang Prefecture?" Jianqin asked rather eagerly. "I need to return to Dragon Island and retrieve some million-year-old dragon saliva grass from the dragon's tomb. I'll use the essence within the dragon's saliva grass to complete the seal, but the seal won't last for too long. It might be a century, a few decades, or even a few years before they break through," said Ruijin. "Every moment counts. Even if it's just a few years, that's enough." Jianqin immediately became confident. He thought of Uncle Xiao and the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Tianjian, who had gone into seclusion with Amagami. Uncle Xiao would definitely become a holy emperor with Amagami's assistance, while Tianjian would become a holy emperor as well after consuming the saint's fruit. A few years was enough. At this moment, the beautiful sound of a zither rang out. It was very gentle, but it seemed to come from all directions if one listened carefully. It was impossible to find the source of the sound. The moment the sound of the zither rang out, everyone in the room stopped talking. Aside from Jianqin, the souls of Changyang Zuyunshao, Ruijin, Honglian, and Blackfish all shuddered. Their souls had actually been affected by the sound of the zither. An attack of the soul. What a great technique. She's actually fused the most terrifying attack into music, Changyang Zuyunshao said in a deep voice. Attacks of the soul were the most difficult to defend against. They could only be forcefully resisted with the soul, which was why they were the most terrifying attacks. It's that girl. Why do I feel like her strength has increased by a lot since we last saw her in the City of God? Blackfish asked as he sat on the bed. His voice was filled with uncontainable surprise. Her attacks of the soul are becoming more and more terrifying. Ruijin said sternly. At the same time, he was perplexed. He had no idea why her strength had changed so drastically. Chapter 1186. Not only did the people of the Changyang clan hear the zither music, but even many people in Lore City heard it as well. However, they were not affected at all. They only treated it as a beautiful song, as if the attacks of the soul within the music were completely useless against them. Even saint rulers were not affected by it. Jian Chen flew into the sky. The zither music continued to linger in the air, but he failed to find any traces of the person as far as the eye could see. He could not even find the source of the music. Jian Chen slowly closed his eyes with mixed feelings. He expanded the senses of his soul and rapidly expanded in all directions. Very soon, Jian Chen opened his eyes. He looked to the east and gently sighed. With a single movement, he vanished, shooting off into the distance with lightning-like speed. A few seconds later, Jian Chen had already left Lore City. He stopped on a small hill 10 kilometers away from the city. There was a 2-meter-tall rock in front of him. A veiled woman sat on the rock with her back to him. A simple zither was placed before her, and as her slender fingers slowly slid across the strings, beautiful music rang out. Jian Chen's emotions became extremely mixed for a moment as he stared at the familiar figure. He had not seen the heavenly enchantress since he had left Dragon Island. This was the first time he had seen her. However, Jian Chen actually felt like he had no idea how to face the heavenly enchantress right now. Jian Chen quietly stared at the heavenly enchantress figure before leaping up. He landed on the rock in a nimble manner and arrived beside the heavenly enchantress a step behind her. He gently asked, "Why have you come?" The heavenly enchantress' face remained veiled. She did not seem to hear what Jian Chen had said. Her enchanting eyes stared at the zither of the demonic cry without blinking. She was extremely focused on the zither, as if it was the only zither in the world in her eyes. Jian Chen didn't say anything. He just stood there quietly, gazing into the distance. No one knew what he was thinking. After who knew how long, the song finally came to an end. The heavenly enchantress gently placed her hands on the strings as she stared at the zither. She said, "I've come to find you this time because I want something." The heavenly enchantress' voice was very calm. There was some coldness in her voice, as if she wanted to keep everyone at arm's length. The light in Jian Chen's eyes flickered. He gently sighed. "I already know. You want the saint's fruit, right?" "That's right. Give me the saint's fruit." The heavenly enchantress' voice was rather domineering. She did not hold back at all, as if asking Jian Chen for the saint's fruit was only natural. "No, I can't give you the saint's fruit." Jian Chen gently shook his head. He had prepared the saint's fruit for Tianjian and would not give it to anyone else. "You have to give me the saint's fruit. This time, I have to take it back with me." The heavenly enchantress' gaze became rather sharp. "If you want anything else from me, I can give it to you, but not the saint's fruit." Jian Chen did not back down at all. The heavenly enchantress suddenly stood up. She stared at Jian Chen with her enchanting eyes. Her eyes were filled with anger as she loudly said, "With your talent, you don't need the saint's fruit to become the holy emperor. What are you keeping it for? Give it to me." There was no reason or explanation. The heavenly enchantress wanted the saint's fruit in a righteous manner. As a father, he should have left the best for his child. "I've specially come to pick the saint's fruit for Senior Tianjian. It's my gift to Senior Tianjian. I won't give it to anyone else other than Senior Tianjian," Jian Chen coldly said. He had no idea what the heavenly enchantress wanted the saint's fruit for, but he did not ask either. "You're giving the saint's fruit to the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Senior Tianjian?" The heavenly enchantress asked in some disbelief. "That's right." The heavenly enchantress shook violently with Jian Chen's confirmation. She became rather dejected as pain filled her eyes. "How can this be?" The heavenly enchantress murmured. Tianjin had once shown great kindness to her, so she really could not find any reason to stop Jianqin from gifting the saint's fruit to Tianjin. However, Xiaobao's body desperately needed the saint's fruit. At that moment, the heavenly enchantress truly found it difficult to make a choice. Jianqin stared at the heavenly enchantress expression in surprise. The heavenly enchantress was a cold and prideful person in his impression. Ever since he had met her, she had always displayed an icy side. He had never seen her so dejected before. Looks like the saint's fruit is extremely important to her, Jianqin thought. Although he owed her, he could not give away the saint's fruit. Tears flickered in the heavenly enchantress' eyes. She had never felt so helpless before. Xiao Bao's body was just far too weak. She really could not think of any other way to save him apart from the saint's fruit. Without the saint's fruit, Xiao Bao would only be able to live as an ordinary person for the rest of his life, enjoying a short lifespan of 200 years. If she had really found Xiao Bao, she would not have cared so much, but Xiao Bao was not. He was her flesh and blood after all. She did not wish to see Xiao Bao return to the earth 200 years later. Jianqin became very curious when he noticed the tears in the heavenly enchantress' eyes. He asked, "I know you definitely don't want the saint's fruit for yourself. Can you tell me why you want it? Maybe I can help you in some other way. I will come looking for you again." The heavenly enchantress coldly turned around. With a gentle gust of wind, she had already vanished. She had already turned into a blur as she carried her zither, vanishing in the blink of an eye. Jianqin stood on the rock with his arms crossed. He sank into his thoughts as he watched the heavenly enchantress leave. With a slight movement, he left behind a blur and returned to the Changyang Prefecture in Lore City. When Jianqin returned to Changyang Prefecture, Ruijin had already left. He had gone to Dragon Island alone to collect the dragon saliva grass. They had already discussed and decided to seal up Changyang Prefecture first before going to the Heaven's Incense School. Honglian was nowhere to be seen as well. She had already gone to the artifact space to prepare the formations. Whether it was sealing up Changyang Prefecture or going to the Heaven's Incense School, neither of them were trivial matters. They needed to make sure they were prepared. After all, they were directly attacking the enemy's base this time and not fighting outside. That afternoon, a space gate suddenly opened above the Changyang clan in Lore City. Two energetic old men walked out with smiles on their faces. They radiated with powerful presences that enveloped the entire clan. They were saint rulers. However, as soon as the two of them stepped out of the space gate, their smiles suddenly froze. Over a dozen saint rulers had silently appeared around the two of them at some point in time. Every single one of them gave off a more powerful presence than the two of them. It's Kong." A pleasantly surprised voice rang out as the graceful Changyang Zun charged over in joy. The two of them were Changyang Zhu Yun Kong and Chang Wuji. The saint rulers around Changyang Zhu Yun Kong immediately became amiable when they heard Changyang Zhu Yun's voice. Some of them even smiled amicably. "So, it's brother Yun Kong. It's actually nephew Yun Kong." These saint rulers were all members of the Zhu branch. Many of them were Changyang Zhu Yun Kong seniors, so they all began to greet him. Changyang Zhu Yun Kong recognized these people with a single glance. He immediately became stunned. Jianqin personally came out to receive them as well. However, what pleased him the most was that Chang Bo had finally become a saint ruler. His lifespan had increased by 2,000 years. 2,000 years was enough for Chang Bo to change far, far too much. He could completely use heavenly resources to change his constitution, allowing his body to undergo a metamorphosis. Coupled with his various superior conditions, Jianqin was confident that Chang Bo would be able to become a holy emperor in the future. Everyone chatted with one another before dispersing. Changyang Zhu Yun Kong was obviously taken away by Changyang Zhu Yun, while Jianqin was taken to his room by Chang Bo, fourth young master. "It's all thanks to these 3 beast furs that I was able to break through to Saint Ruler this time. My talent is mediocre, and I've reached the end of my life. If it weren't for these 3 beast furs, I wouldn't have been able to become a Saint Ruler even with Shaoling's help. Fourth young master, I really have to thank you. Changbo thanked him before returning the 3 beast furs to Jianchen. It really had been extremely difficult for him to break through to Saint Ruler this time. Jianchen accepted the 3 beast furs and frowned slightly. He said with some displeasure, Changbo, don't say things like that, or I'll get angry. Changbo chuckled and did not dwell on the topic. He said, Master and Huang Tianba's strength increased very quickly during this period of seclusion. With Xiao Ling's assistance, it became hundreds of times easier for them to comprehend the mysteries of the world, and they don't have to worry about the energy of the world. Huang Tianba is now at the 8th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. He wants to use this rare opportunity to break through to Holy Emperor in a single stroke. Changbo paused when he reached there. He glanced outside deeply and asked softly, Fourth young master, has something happened recently? Why have so many seniors of the Zhu branch come to the estate? Changbo was also a Saint Ruler now, so he could take care of himself. As a result, Jianchen did not hide anything from Changbo. He told him everything that had happened in the protector clan of Chanyang Prefecture, which immediately stunned Changbo. At this moment, a guard reported, Fourth young master, supervisor, the old man has invited you to the discussion hall. The old man mentioned by the guard was obviously Chanyang Zun, the person with the greatest authority in Chanyang Prefecture. When Jianchen and Changbo arrived in the discussion hall, they just happened to hear Chanyang Zhu Yunkong's furious voice. They've gone too far. They've gone too far. They've actually done something like that. They're shameless. Father, mother, let's completely break away from the Protector clan from today onwards. The Protector clan of Chanyang Prefecture will no longer have anything to do with our Chanyang Prefecture. Chapter 1187. Jianchen, Changwuji, Chanyang Zuyun Shao, Chanyang Zuyun Kong, Chanyang Zuyun, Chanyang Zhu Shao, and a few other saint rulers from the Protector clans gathered together. They mainly discussed what had happened in the Protector clans and how they would develop in the future. Chanyang Zuyun Kong was the most furious out of all of them. He indignantly declared that he would completely break away from the Protector clans and that Chanyang Prefecture would become independent. He would no longer have anything to do with the Protector clans. Chanyang Zhu Shao had brought a group of people from the Zhu branch to Lore City. Their actions had already explained everything. They just lacked an official announcement. The atmosphere in the hall became stifling. Chanyang Zhu Shao and the others all felt extremely heavy inside. None of them said anything at that moment. A while later, Chanyang Zhu Shao finally made up his mind. He said through gritted teeth, I now declare that I, Chanyang Zhu Shao, will break away from the Protector clan of Chanyang Prefecture. I will no longer have anything to do with the Protector clan of Chanyang Prefecture. I declare that I, Chanyang Zuyun Shao, will also break away from the Protector clan of Chanyang Prefecture. Chanyang Zuyun Shao was the second to declare his position. I, Chanyang Zuyun, will also break away from Chanyang Prefecture. The people of the Zhu branch all declared their departure from Chanyang Prefecture. In reality, they had already made preparations for this ever since they had come to Lore City with Chanyang Zhu Shao. Only a small portion of the people from the Zhu branch had left Chanyang Prefecture this time. Most of the people from the Zhu branch had chosen to remain in the Protector clan, but the people who had left the Protector clan were the most powerful. They were the most powerful force in the Zhu branch. After the meeting, Jianchen went to visit his parents first. He chatted with them for a while before visiting his 3 aunts. The first aunt, Ling Long, and the second aunt, Yu Fengyan, were not in a very good mental state. Their children had already been gone for many years without any news, so they missed them very much. Yu Fengyan was still fine. Although she had not seen her daughter for many years, She knew in her heart that her daughter had become the saintess of a powerful force. She was more or less gratified. However, Ling Long spent her days in fear. The words of the pavilion master of the Pure Heart Pavilion were still deeply engraved in her mind. Although Changyang, who had become a disciple of the Pure Heart Pavilion and was highly regarded by the pavilion master, she couldn't feel the slightest bit of happiness in her heart. She was extremely afraid that Changyang, who would abandon his family and friends and forget about her, his mother, Jianqin's aunt by Yushuang, had lived a very satisfied life in the past few years. Her son, Changyang Ku, had undergone a complete transformation with Jianqin's assistance. Although he was nowhere close to Jianqin's level, his cultivation speed had increased drastically, and he had become an Earth Saint Master half a month ago. Changyang had held a wedding several years ago. His wife was a princess of the kingdom of Jessen, and the king of the kingdom of Jessen had personally come to propose the marriage. Afterward, Jianqin left Changyang Prefecture with Yu, strolling through Lore City on foot. Jianqin, where are we going? Yu hugged one of Jianqin's arms as she looked at Jianqin affectionately. Her eyes were filled with gentleness. You'll know very soon. Jianqin faintly smiled. Very soon, Jianqin and Yu arrived at the center of Lore City. This was also the most bustling area of the city. Before Jianqin was a 4-story restaurant. It was extremely luxurious and extravagant. In the eyes of outsiders, it was definitely a restaurant that only the rich could enter. But the situation was the exact opposite. Not only were there merchants and young masters in luxurious robes, but there were also careless mercenaries as well. Let's go in. It's been so long, so it's about time for me to visit Auntie, Jianqin gently said before entering the restaurant with Yu. Even though it was not mealtime yet, there were many people in the restaurant. The first floor was almost full, and the loud noise was like thunder, deafening people. The level of consumption in this restaurant was clearly segregated. The majority of people sitting on the first floor were mercenaries who spent all day fighting with magical beasts and enemies. Naturally, their bodies emitted a valiant aura. Only a small number of merchants dined here. As for those wealthy merchants and young masters wearing luxurious robes, they all went to the second floor of the restaurant and did not stay on the first floor. The restaurant was a place where conflicts happened the most. Often, there would be some hot-tempered mercenaries who would get drunk and go crazy. They would fight in the restaurant, and in the end, bloodshed would occur. Not long after Jianqin and Yu entered the restaurant, 2 groups of mercenaries started arguing. Damn it! Can't you guys be a little quieter? It's so noisy that your grandpa doesn't even have the mood to drink. A tall and sturdy mercenary with a head of fiery red hair smashed the wine jar in his hand heavily on the table and shouted at the mercenaries at the table next to him. The originally noisy restaurant immediately quieted down. Everyone's gaze was focused on the mercenary with fiery red hair. The table that was yelled at by the red-haired mercenary also quieted down. There were a total of 4 people at the table, and all of them were drunk. Their faces were red, but each of them was emitting an unusually fierce aura. This was something that only people who had experienced slaughter would possess. The 4 of them had clearly been baptized in blood as well, and were ruthless characters who often wandered through slaughter and battle. Bang! One of the 4 viciously slammed the table, shattering it with great force. He glared at the mercenary and said coldly, "How dare you speak to us, the 4 brothers of the Exploding Bear clan, like that? You must be tired of living. How dare you speak to us, the 4 brothers of the Exploding Bear clan? This person cannot be forgiven. Take his life as an apology to us." Another one of the 4 brothers called out sternly. He had a fiery temper as well, and his saint weapon had already condensed in his hand. It was a huge axe. The mercenary sneered, "How dare you speak such arrogant words? You really don't know how to write the word death." As he said that, the mercenary clenched his hand, and surging fire-attributed saint force immediately surged out. It quickly condensed into a huge, fire-red sword in his hand. An Earth Saint Master. It's actually the most powerful element out of the 6 fire-attributed saint force. A deep cry immediately rang out in the restaurant. An Earth Saint Master could already be regarded as a rare expert in Lore City. The mercenary and the 4 brothers of the Exploding Bear clan were already on the verge of a battle. At this moment, a middle-aged man who seemed to be a merchant stood up. He clasped his hands at them with a smile and said, "Everyone, you must not be from the kingdom of Jessen. I am Fang Yinhua, so let me give you a piece of advice. You've come to the wrong place to fight. Do not cause trouble in this restaurant, or you'll be in trouble even if you're Heaven Saint Masters." Whether it was the mercenary or the 4 brothers of the Exploding Bear clan, their faces all changed. Heaven Saint Masters were peak experts in their eyes. Even with the entire kingdom of Jessen in perspective, there were only around a dozen of them. Of course, this was excluding the hidden strength of the Changyang Prefecture. The red-haired mercenary calmed down very quickly after his surprise. He did not believe Fang Yinhua's words and sneered, "Even Heaven Saint Masters are in trouble. Is the owner of this restaurant a hermit saint ruler?" Fang Yinhua knew that the mercenary would react like this. He faintly smiled. "That's not the case, but it's close because this restaurant is under the protection of the Changyang Prefecture. The Changyang Prefecture has saint rulers." "Humph. Do you think I'll believe that a mere restaurant can be protected by the great Changyang Prefecture? If that's the case, you're better off tricking 3-year-old children," the 4 brothers sneered. They did not believe Fang Yinhua at all. Fang Yinhua glanced at them in pity before sitting back down. He no longer paid any attention to them. The temperature in the restaurant suddenly skyrocketed. The sword in the mercenary's hand glowed with a red light as he pointed it at the 4 brothers. The 4 brothers did not back down. They all drew their saint weapons. The 4 of them were Earth Saint Masters as well, but they were not as strong as the mercenary individually. As a result, they could only work together. At this moment, a group of people in black robes silently walked in. There were a total of 12 of them, and all of them were emotionless. The leading middle-aged man was a Heaven Saint Master. Quite a few people in the restaurant immediately cast gazes of admiration and respect at the sight of the group. They were the enforcers of the Changyang Prefecture, and even the weakest of them was an Earth Saint Master. The seemingly ordinary black robes had become a symbol of strength, status, and glory in their eyes. "Take away all those who dare to cause trouble here." The middle-aged man in the lead coldly stared at the 4 Exploding Bear brothers and the red-haired mercenary. Just a single glance was enough to make the red-haired mercenary and the 4 Exploding Bear brothers tremble and lose all will to fight. A Heaven Saint Master! The mercenary and the 4 brothers even wanted to die. They had never thought that they would actually provoke experts, and they would come so quickly. Was this restaurant really a place protected by the Changyang Prefecture? They did not even have the thought of resisting against a Heaven Saint Master. The mercenary and the 4 brothers were all taken away by the enforcers of the Changyang Prefecture. "Everyone, please continue eating. I am the captain of the enforcers, Jiang Cheng. Please forgive me if I have offended you." Jiang Cheng did not put on any airs of a Heaven Saint Master. He seemed very approachable. It was not that he did not have any pride, but that pride could only be seen outside. In this restaurant, even he had to lower himself because he knew just how close the restaurant's owner was to the Changyang Prefecture. As a result, he did not even want to offend the customers in the restaurant. At this moment, Jiang Cheng's expression suddenly froze. He stared blankly at Jianqin and you who are about to go up to the 2nd floor. His face was filled with disbelief, but it soon turned into ecstasy and excitement. There was also unconcealable admiration and respect. Jiang Cheng quickly walked over and suddenly knelt down in front of everyone. He said with a trembling voice, "Jiang Cheng of the enforcers of the Changyang Prefecture greets the 4th young master and the princess." Jianqin smiled. He waved his hand, and an invisible force lifted Jiang Qing up. He said, "Fifth cycle heaven, Saint Master. Not bad. Jiang Qing, guard this restaurant well. You can become a Saint Master within 100 years." Jiang Qing was overjoyed. He said excitedly, "Don't worry, fourth young master. I will use my life to protect this restaurant. As long as I am alive, I will not allow anyone to cause trouble here." Jianqin nodded and then went up to the second floor with Yu Yu. A moment later, the first floor of the restaurant exploded with noise. Fourth young master? Was that young man just now the fourth young master of the Changyang Prefecture? He is the imperial protector of the kingdom of Jessen. He is a genius of the Tianyuan continent. He has already become a saint ruler at such a young age. I'm afraid it's more than that. I heard that the fourth young master of the Changyang Prefecture is already a holy emperor. I never thought that I would actually meet the elusive fourth young master. Chapter 1188. Jianqin and Yu Yu arrived at the top floor of the inn. The decorations there were extremely simple, seeming rather out of place compared to the majestic inn. The inn was opened by Ken and his mother. Under the protection of the Changyang Prefecture, the tiny inn had already become the most famous inn in Lore City. Everyone in the city knew about it, and its name had even spread across the entire kingdom of Jessen. However, Ken and his mother only wanted to live an ordinary life. They did not have any lofty ambitions, or with the influence of the Changyang Prefecture, the size of their inn would have been far greater. Jianqin only saw a woman in very ordinary clothes where Ken and his mother rested at the top floor of the inn. He did not see Ken. Only after asking around did he learn that Ken had already joined the Flame Mercenaries. The woman was only an ordinary person. She was unable to cultivate, so she seemed much older now that she was in her 50s. Jianqin and you chatted with the woman for a while before saying, "Auntie, I have a method to change your constitution, allowing you to be reborn. You'll be able to cultivate like us in the future. As long as you reach Earth Saint Master, your lifespan will greatly increase." Jianqin owed his life to Kendall. Since he was no longer around, Jianqin would repay this debt to Ken and his mother. As a result, Jianqin cared for the two of them in every possible way. If other people had heard Jianqin's words, they would have definitely become wild with joy. On the Tianyuan continent that revered strength and respected the strong, there was no one who did not wish to become an expert because the strong represented status, glory, and wealth. However, the auntie's face did not change at all. Jianqin's words did not tempt her at all. She shook her head. "Thank you for your good intentions, young master, but I only want to be an ordinary person and live a peaceful life like this. I only want to go to the other world to accompany Kendall after I die. Kendall is far too lonely over there, so I want to accompany him." A sliver of sorrow appeared in the auntie's eyes as tears glistened. Jianqin fell silent. He knew that the auntie had already learned about Uncle Kendall's death. Although he had always tried to hide it, there was no way he could hide it forever. Coupled with the fact that Ken had already joined the Flame Mercenaries, it was obviously impossible to hide the news of Uncle Kendall's death. Yu went up and grabbed Auntie's hand intimately. She comforted, "Auntie, don't be too sad. Uncle may have passed away, but at the very least, you still have little Three to accompany you in this world. You have to pull yourself together and watch little Three grow up." Jianqin and Yu comforted the auntie. The two of them chatted a lot with her, staying for 4 whole hours before leaving. On the way back, Jianqin was very silent. He was very worried for the auntie, while Yu obediently followed by Jianqin's side. She intimately held onto Jianqin's arm and silently accompanied him. Her eyes were filled with tenderness. Jianqin gently sighed when they returned to Changyang Prefecture. He wanted to change the auntie's fate, but she had chosen to live an ordinary life. There was nothing he could do about it. Since this is the auntie's own choice, let's silently support her, Jianqin said softly. Fighters had the world of fighters, while mortals had the happiness of mortals. He had already thought things through now. Thinking back to all the trials and tribulations he had gone through in the past few years, living an ordinary life was actually a form of happiness. Yu came to Jianshin's side and gently hugged him. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tenderness as she looked at Jianshin. She softly said, "Jianshin, there are actually many ordinary people who live happier lives than us. If you want, Yu wants to live the life of an ordinary person. The world of warriors is filled with unavoidable disputes and killings. It's really tiring." Jianshin gently hugged Yu's slender waist as he sniffed the fragrance from her hair. He said, "Yu once we break free from the disputes on the Tianyuan continent, let's go to a beautiful place deep in the mountains and live in seclusion. We won't interfere with the matters of the Tianyuan continent in the future, all right?" Yu raised her head and looked at Jianshin in joy. Her beautiful face was filled with yearning. She nodded firmly and said, "I look forward to that day. I hope that day will come sooner." Jianshin smiled. He lowered his head and gently kissed Yu's forehead. He said, "But if we want to live like that, we need to have enough strength to break free from our current predicament. Yu I need to go to Mercenary City immediately. I'll leave the safety of the Changyang Prefecture to you." Yu's face immediately darkened when she heard that Jianshin was about to leave again. She looked at Jianshin reluctantly and said, "Then you have to come back sooner." Jianshin nodded in agreement before finding Changyang Zuyunshao. He asked him to open a space gate to Mercenary City. Jianshin was warmly received by the people of Mercenary City. An elder personally came out to receive him. After stating that he had come to see Senior Tianjian, the elder did not say anything else or report anything. He directly brought Jianshin to the hovering divine hall where Tianjian cultivated. Jianshin saw the white-haired Tianjian in the same majestic hall. Even though Tianjian still maintained his appearance as a middle-aged man, his vitality drained away day by day. He did not have much time left. Tianjian looked at Jianshin with gratification. When he first met Jianshin was only an Earth Saint Master. Now that over a decade had passed, Jianshin was like a carp that had leapt through the Dragon Gate. He had grown to his current level at an unbelievable rate. Such talent was unprecedented on the Tianyuan continent. Jianshin exchanged some pleasantries with Tianjian before pulling out an extremely well-sealed box from his space ring. He said, "Senior Tianjian, I've come to give this to you." Under the control of Jianshin's mind, the box slowly flew toward Tianjian. A curious look appeared on Sky Sword's face. He took the brocade box and opened it to take a look. He saw a fruit the size of a fist lying there quietly. Although it looked very ordinary, with his sharp senses, he was able to sense that it was very strange. With his sharp senses, he could clearly sense that the fruit contained an extremely powerful energy and unfathomable truths of the world. The saint's fruit. Tianjian's face immediately changed drastically. Even with his mental fortitude, he struggled to remain calm after seeing the fruit. After crying out, he immediately closed the box, afraid that the energy within the fruit would leak out. Even though the fruit had already reached a state of returning to its original state when it ripened, the fruit was still very precious. Jianshin, the saint's fruit, is far too precious. Moreover, you risked your life to obtain it, so you should use it on someone who needs it. I don't have much time left, so it'll be a waste if I consume the fruit. Tianjian returned the fruit to Jianshin without any hesitation. Senior, I won't hide it from you. I only went to the death nest for Senior's sake for this fruit. It originally belonged to Senior, so please accept it, Jianshin said sincerely. He then paused for a moment before continuing. And now that Taita's identity has been exposed, he'll probably become a public enemy of the Tianyuan continent before long. I hope Senior can become a holy emperor and assist Taita when the time comes. Tianjian became stern. He heavily said, Taita's identity is indeed a huge matter. The experts of the Beast God continent and the Tianyuan continent will probably come to deal with him. Fortunately, there aren't many holy emperors left. Jianchen, as long as Taita guarantees that he won't lead the 100 races to invade our Tianyuan continent in the future, I can stand on his side. Otherwise, I won't help you even if you give me the fruit. Don't worry, Senior. If Taita dares to do that in the future, I, Jianchen, will be the first to not forgive him. At that time, I will stand with the Tianyuan continent and protect the land of the humans with my life, Jianchen swore. Actually, he had no idea what Taita would become in the future, but at the very least, Taita was still his friend, one of his best friends. Tianjian hesitated for a moment before accepting the saint's fruit in the end. He said, "Once I become a saint emperor, I will resign from my position as Grand Elder of Mercenary City and leave the city. Otherwise, it will only cause trouble for Mercenary City. Although Mercenary City is powerful and has a heritage so great that no one can shake it, I can't let this sacred place become a place of scorn." Jianchen had achieved his objective in coming to Mercenary City after giving away the saint's fruit. He immediately left the floating divine hall. Tianjian stood in the floating divine hall as he watched Jianchen leave. Only after quite a while did he look away. He stared at the box in his hand in a daze as mixed feelings filled his heart. After quite a while, Tianjian finally let out a long sigh. He shook his head with a bitter smile. I never thought that Jianchen would risk his life to pick the saint's fruit so painstakingly. He's actually giving it to me. Jianchen left the miniature world of Mercenary City through a space gate and returned to the city. Big brother, are you done with your business? Can you play with Xiaoling now? Xiaoling's voice rang out in Jianchen's head. Afterward, her illusionary figure appeared in front of Jianchen, drifting around in front of Jianchen. People came and went on the streets, but no one other than Jianchen could see Xiaoling. Jianchen's gaze became gentle. He began to treat Xiaoling as his own sister. He smiled. Xiaoling, take Big Brother to the underground space first. I'll go visit my old friends as well. Xiaoling agreed happily, and Jianchen immediately felt an irresistible energy envelop him. Afterward, his vision darkened, and he vanished from the streets without raising anyone's attention. Chapter 1189. Jianchen chuckled. He looked at Xiaoling's pure and cute appearance with both love and affection. He said, "Xiaoling, how do you want me to reward you?" "Xiaoling's reward is that you have to visit Xiaoling often in the future," Xiaoling giggled. "All right, no problem. As long as I have the time, I'll definitely visit Xiaoling often. How about that?" Jianchen smiled. "Yay. Big brother, you can't go back on your word." Xiaoling excitedly waved her hands. She was extremely happy. Under Xiaoling's lead, Jianchen saw Mingdong and Huang Tianba, who were still cultivating. The two of them were currently immersed in their comprehension of the mysteries of the world, having entered a state of selflessness. Jianchen only watched from afar. He did not disturb the two of them. In the past few years, they had been cultivating in seclusion, comprehending the mysteries of the world that Xiaoling had created. They used the clearest of perspectives to comprehend the profound truths of the world, which was thousands of times easier than comprehending by themselves in the mist. They progressed at a shocking rate. Huang Tianba had already reached the 8th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler and was not far away from the 9th heavenly layer. At this rate, he would probably become a glorious holy emperor in a year's time. Mingdong progressed extremely quickly as well. His talent was already pretty good, so with Tianjian and Xiaoling's assistance, he had already reached the 7th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. Jianchen did not stay for long. He promised Xiaoling that he would definitely return to visit her very soon before leaving through the space gate in Mercenary City. Xiaoling stared longingly in the direction that Jianchen had disappeared in. She murmured, "Master's scent on Big Brother is fading. Looks like it's been a very long time since you've seen Master, but that doesn't matter anymore. As long as Big Brother can visit Xiaoling often, Xiaoling will be very happy." Big Brother said that as long as Xiaoling works hard at cultivating Master's cultivation method, Xiaoling will be able to see Master in the future. Big Brother won't lie to Xiaoling. Xiaoling can't sleep so much anymore. She has to work hard at cultivation. Xiaoling clenched her fists tightly. She was determined, as if she had made a very important decision. Jianchen returned to Lore City, while Ruijin returned to Lore City after gathering enough dragon saliva grass from Dragon Island. Honglian had finished refining the items she needed to cast down the formation as well, so she emerged from the artifact space. The operation to seal the Protector clan of Chanyang Prefecture was about to begin. Jianchen, Yu Yu, Honglian, and Ruijin gathered together to discuss the exact steps of the operation. Only the 4 of them were participating in the operation to seal the Chanyang Prefecture this time. Blackfish was not participating because he was deeply poisoned. Sealing the passage between the Protector clans and the outside world won't go very smoothly. We'll definitely encounter the powerful obstruction of the Protector clans, and we might even have to face attacks from Emperor armaments. During the operation, I'll have to use the secret technique as hard as I can, so I won't be able to help you. The resistance of the Protector clans will be up to the 3 of you. And during the process of sealing, the space has to be maintained at a stable state. If the space ripples too much, the seal might even fail. As a result, the 3 of you need to enter the miniature world of Chanyang Prefecture and keep them busy. You can't drag the battle outside. Ruijin said sternly. They had to succeed this time. They could not fail, or Taita's identity would definitely be announced by the furious Great Elder of Chanyang Prefecture. Ruijin, how long do we need to keep them busy for you? Honglian asked. Since we're sealing a Protector clan this time, it'll take a little longer. I need 4 hours, Ruijin said. Honglian furrowed her brows. We're fighting in the miniature world of the Protector clans this time. That's their base. Their heritage is extremely deep, so they definitely have various trump cards that they haven't revealed yet. They'll definitely resist with everything they have when we seal them this time. It'll be rather difficult for us to keep them busy for 4 hours with our current strength without affecting the space outside. There's not a lot of energy left in the moon god scepter by my master, and the bright moon divine hall needs to be outside to draw upon the essence of the moon. If we enter the miniature world of Chanyang Prefecture, the bright moon divine hall will only be able to defend. They won't be able to attack, Yu said. We can't fail this time no matter what. If we don't have absolute confidence, we can't act recklessly, Jianchen sternly said. He could not afford to fail this time. This was because Taita's identity would be exposed prematurely if they failed. If only that girl was here, Ruijin gently sighed. At this moment, he actually thought of the heavenly enchantress. Jianchen also thought of her beautiful figure. It was just a pity that the heavenly enchantress had failed to obtain the saint's fruit and had left resentfully. Jianchen also knew that he would probably be rejected if he asked the heavenly enchantress for help under these circumstances. At this moment, a light sound of a zither pierced through the layers of obstructions. The sound was gentle, as if it contained a boundless magic that could silently influence the minds of others. Jianchen, Ruijin, and Honglian all became alert when they heard the sound. Haha, she sure has come at the right time. Jianchen, whether we can successfully seal up Chanyang Prefecture or not will all depend on you. Go and have a good talk with her. With her help, the operation will be much easier this time. Ruijin chuckled as he glanced past Yu. A strange light flashed through Yu Yu's eyes. She blinked her large, bright eyes before remaining silent. She only stared at Jianchen. Jianchen had never thought that the heavenly enchantress would come at a time like this. He said to Yu, I'll be right back. With that, Jianchen left. Jianchen could not sense the heavenly enchantress' presence, nor could he tell where the sound had come from. All he could do was use the senses of his soul to search for her again. A while later, Jianchen withdrew the senses of his soul. He shot into the sky, disappearing into the thick clouds in the blink of an eye. Wild winds whistled through the sea of clouds. They were ear-piercing. Jianqin traveled on a white cloud as his robes flapped in the wind. His hair danced in the wind as well. The heavenly enchantress stood in the sea of clouds. Her face was covered by a veil, so her appearance was obscured. However, the zither of the demonic cry was not in her arms this time. Instead, a young, chubby boy stood beside her. She held the boy's hand as invisible world force revolved around him, blocking the whistling winds. Chapter 1190. The boy stared at Jianqin curiously with his large, innocent eyes. His chubby face blushed slightly very soon as his body temperature rapidly rose. The heavenly enchantress held Xiao Bao's hand. She discovered that Xiao Bao's hand had become scorching hot very soon and immediately panicked. She asked in concern, "Xiao Bao, why is your body so hot?" I'm so hot," Xiao Bao said with some difficulty. Xiao Bao said with some discomfort. His little face had already turned red, and the temperature radiating from his body was still rising rapidly. Very soon, it reached a level that ordinary people would not be able to endure. On the other hand, Xiao Bao did not feel any pain other than discomfort. The heavenly enchantress crouched down in a hurry and pinched Xiao Bao's body nervously. She discovered to her surprise that every inch of Xiao Bao's body had become extremely hot, as if he was a piece of red-hot iron. Why is it like this? Why has Xiao Bao suddenly become so hot for no reason at all? The heavenly enchantress became more and more worried. Xiao Bao's body temperature had reached an unbelievable level. If it were any other ordinary person, they probably would have died long ago. Jianqin's face became rather red as well. Not only did the chaotic Naiden in his dantian lose control the moment he saw Xiao Bao, but even his blood began to flow faster. If his blood was like a normal person walking normally, it was like a runaway horse right now. It rapidly flowed through his body in an extremely violent manner. Jianqin was surprised. Why had he suddenly changed like this? He could not understand it no matter how hard he thought about it. This was the first time he had encountered something like this ever since he had cultivated the chaotic body. Vaguely, Jianqin felt like he had formed some sort of resonance with the boy. The two of them were attracted to each other, and this was not just the attraction of chaotic force. It was an even deeper attraction of their bloodline. Suddenly, Jianqin seemed to think of something. He stared at Xiao Bao's flushed face in shock as his body began to gently tremble uncontrollably. His eyes were filled with excitement and disbelief. Jianqin slowly arrived beside Xiao Bao on a white cloud. He crouched down and gently rubbed Xiao Bao's head. He asked softly, "Child, what's your name?" Xiao Bao suddenly felt much better when Jianqin rubbed his head gently, but he was still burning up. Even though it was very uncomfortable, the temperature did not continue to rise. Xiao Bao stared at Jianqin's handsome face with his innocent eyes and replied subconsciously, "I'm Xiao Bao." As soon as Xiao Bao finished speaking, the heavenly enchantress pushed Jianqin away. She glared at Jianqin and said furiously, "Don't touch Xiao Bao. Stay away from him." "Xiao Bao! Xiao Bao!" Jianqin became rather dazed as he softly repeated Xiao Bao's name. His heart trembled violently, and his gaze toward Xiao Bao was filled with a gentleness that had never appeared before. "This is my child, right? This is Jianqin's son." Jianqin's voice trembled. There was no need for the heavenly enchantress to confirm this, because this was a reaction from their bloodline. Only those with special constitutions would possess such a reaction. The heavenly enchantress was flustered. She had thought of countless ways to hide Xiao Bao's identity before she had come, but she had never thought that Jianqin would see through her with a single glance before she could even say anything. No, this isn't your child. Xiao Bao isn't your child." The heavenly enchantress had lost her usual composure. She stood in front of Xiao Bao in a panic. Xiao Bao's identity had always been her greatest secret. now that her secret had been exposed, and it had been exposed to the person she did not want to know about it the most. She was in a complete mess. However, even though she denied it as much as she could, Jianchen already knew the answer from her intense reaction. At that moment, his feelings became extremely mixed. Xiao Bao stuck his head out from behind the heavenly enchantress. He studied Jianchen curiously with his large eyes and asked, "Are you Daddy?" "No, Xiao Bao, he's not your daddy," the heavenly enchantress hurriedly said. A layer of mist gradually appeared in her eyes. She immediately covered Xiao Bao's eyes with her hands, preventing him from seeing it. "Mother, you're lying. Xiao Bao can feel that it's Daddy." Xiao Bao tried his best to remove the hands covering his eyes, but the heavenly enchantress would never let him do as he wished. She rapidly increased the strength of her hands, but she was very gentle, afraid that she would hurt Xiao Bao. "Mother, Xiao Bao wants to see Daddy. Xiao Bao wants to see." Xiao Bao shouted loudly. He began to use his full strength. Immediately, a layer of faint gray gas emerged from Xiao Bao's hands. With the appearance of the faint gray gas, the light in the area became somewhat distorted. It was as if the gray gas was absorbing the light. Furthermore, if one were to take a closer look, one would even have the misconception that this faint gray gas contained all the colors in the world. However, in the next instant, all the colors would disappear. When one looked at it again, it was still that faint gray gas, and it was so ordinary. Xiao Bao's strength also became extraordinarily great with the appearance of the gas. He removed the heavenly enchantress' hands from his eyes in a single stroke, causing her to become stunned. Jianchen became rather stunned. He stared blankly at the rapidly disappearing gas in Xiao Bao's hands as his heart churned. Chaotic force. This is chaotic force. How is this possible? Jianchen was extremely shocked. He struggled to believe what he had just seen. Back when he cultivated the chaotic body, he had relied on the assistance of the sword spirits and endured extreme pain. It had been extremely difficult, yet Xiao Bao, who was clearly a child, possessed chaotic force just like him. How could he not be shocked? This was because only Jianchen knew just how rare the chaotic body was. Even before the sword spirits appeared, the chaotic body was as rare as phoenix feathers. Suddenly, 2 streaks of light, one violet and one azure, appeared above Jianchen's head. They quickly condensed into the figures of a man and a woman. The man was handsome, while the woman was pretty. When they stood together, they seemed like a match made in heaven. The sword spirits, who had not appeared in a very long time, appeared by themselves. They seemed even more consolidated than before. The gazes of the sword spirits landed on Xiao Bao. Their eyes were filled with great joy. The innate chaotic body. There's actually an innate chaotic body here. Xing could not help but cry out. She was overjoyed. Qing Suo clenched her hands tightly as well. She stared at Xiao Bao without blinking at all. She was extremely excited as well. It really is the innate chaotic body and its master's child. Fantastic, this is just fantastic. Jianchen obviously heard what the sword spirits had said as well. He was overjoyed inside. The heavenly enchantress and Xiao Bao were both attracted by the sword spirits. They both stared at the sword spirits. Xiao Bao was extremely curious, while the heavenly enchantress' eyes narrowed. She was skilled in soul attacks, and her soul was extremely powerful. She could already sense that the sword spirits were existences similar to souls, but they were different from what she knew. Who are you? What is the innate chaotic body? The heavenly enchantress was filled with caution. She carefully protected Xiao Bao behind her. She could sense an extremely great threat from the sword spirits. She knew that they were an extremely terrifying soul, one that was different from the rest. Qing Suo smiled when she saw how cautious the heavenly enchantress was. She gently said, "Mistress, there's no need to be nervous. We're sword spirits. I'm Qing Suo and he's Ziying. Don't worry, we won't harm you." The chaotic body is the most powerful body in the world. Chaotic force is the most powerful energy in the universe. Mistress, your child is born with the innate chaotic body, so he can control the most powerful chaotic force in the universe. The heavenly enchantress became rather dizzy from what Qing Suo had said. Xiao Bao's body was the most powerful in the world, and he could control the most powerful energy in the universe. Was Xiao Bao not a cripple who could not cultivate, where even 10,000-year-old heavenly resources could not regenerate him? Father, are you father? Xiao Bao did not understand what the sword spirits were saying. His bright eyes landed on Jianqin again. Perhaps it was because they both possessed the chaotic body and were connected by blood, but Xiao Bao felt especially close to Jianqin as soon as he saw him. Unknowingly, he had developed a sense of reliance on Jianqin. Jianqin arrived before Xiao Bao with a single step and picked him up. He rubbed Xiao Bao's chubby face and giggled foolishly. "My son, this is my son." "I, Jianqin, actually have a son." The heavenly enchantress was stunned by what the sword spirits had said. She was unable to react for a moment. All she could do was watch as Jianqin carried Xiao Bao away. Although she was unwilling to accept this, she was more concerned about what Qing Suo had said, as a mother who did not want their son to stand out in the future. "Father," Mother said that Xiao Bao didn't have a father. Mother was lying. Xiao Bao has a father. Xiao Bao crisply said in Jianqin's arms before looking at the heavenly enchantress. He asked in confusion, "Mother, Xiao Bao clearly has a father, so why do you keep saying that?" Mother is lying. Mother is lying. Xiao Bao was young, but he was extremely smart. At this moment, the heavenly enchantress actually became rather afraid to meet Xiao Bao's innocent gaze. Her expression became extremely mixed. The development of the situation had completely escaped her control. The reunion of father and son had become an unchangeable reality. She could not deny Xiao Bao's identity, even if she wanted to. She took a deep breath. The heavenly enchantress slowly calmed herself down. Very soon, she recovered her usual coldness. She turned around with her back to Jianqin. The wind in the sky caused her hair to flutter. Xiao Bao has always been unable to cultivate. I've used 10,000-year-old heavenly resources, but it's useless. Since you know that Xiao Bao possesses the chaotic body, you should have a way to resolve his problem. Chapter 1191. The sword spirits fell silent for a while before Xing explained. It's not because the innate chaotic body can't cultivate, but because none of the cultivation methods in this world are suitable for the chaotic body. Only by finding the corresponding method can one cultivate the chaotic body. At the same time, the growth of the chaotic body is not as simple as you imagine it to be. The first step to cultivating the chaotic body is to refine the body. Only when the body is completely refined will chaotic force appear in the body. Was the great energy that appeared in Xiao Bao's hands chaotic force? The heavenly enchantress stared at Xing. At that moment, all of her attention was on Xiao Bao. She wanted to learn about the secrets of Xiao Bao's chaotic body from Xing as soon as possible. However, when she thought about the great energy that had appeared in Xiao Bao, she could not help but think of Jianqin. She had seen the energy that Jianqin used long ago. She could clearly sense that the energy that Jianqin used was extremely similar to the gray gas that had appeared in Xiao Bao's body. However, Xiao Bao's energy lacked the presence of destruction. Correct, that's chaotic force. However, it's only used to refine the body. It's hidden in the flesh and blood. Xiao Bao subconsciously released the chaotic force in his excitement earlier. However, Xiao Bao's chaotic body hasn't been completely refined, so all the energy he absorbs will fuse with his flesh and blood, tempering his body on its own. Only when his chaotic body is completely refined will chaotic force form in his dantian. Only then will he be able to cultivate, Xing explained in detail. The heavenly enchantress sank into her thoughts and murmured, "Looks like it's not that 10,000-year-old heavenly resources are useless to Xiao Bao, but that a single 10,000-year-old heavenly resource isn't enough to satisfy Xiao Bao's needs. Chaotic force is the highest level of energy in the universe. Condensing a strand of the chaotic body requires tremendous amounts of energy of the world, let alone a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource. Even 10 of them are nowhere near enough. According to my observations, Xiao Bao's chaotic body hasn't even been refined to a tenth. Such a fragile body can't endure the impact of chaotic force at all. Qing Suo said sternly. Although he and Ziying were sword spirits, they had lived through an extremely long period of time. They had seen many chaotic bodies during that time, so they understood the toughest bodies in the world extremely well. Alas! Ziying suddenly sighed. She looked at Xiao Bao with some melancholy and said, "The innate chaotic body hasn't appeared for who knows how many years. In my memories, the innate chaotic body has only appeared 3 times in our world. Most of the chaotic bodies have been modified. It's just that the spiritual energy in this world is just far too weak. It's already extremely difficult to provide for Master's innate chaotic body, so there's nowhere near enough resources. At the same time, the further the chaotic body progresses, the more spiritual energy it requires." The heavenly enchantress was stunned. She frowned slightly. From what Ziying had said, she could tell that it would be extremely difficult for Xiao Bao to increase his strength in the future. There will always be a way when the time comes. Ziying, Qing Suo, I will naturally find a way to provide the energy Xiao Bao needs to increase his strength in the future. The matter at hand right now is for Xiao Bao to complete the refinement of his chaotic body as soon as possible. Jianqin said before pausing. After a moment of thought, he continued, Ziying, Qing Suo, Xiao Bao and I both possess the chaotic body. I wonder if I can help Xiao Bao refine his body with my chaotic body. No, Ziying rejected without any hesitation. She sternly said, Master, Xiao Bao may possess the innate chaotic body, but his strength is still there. His body isn't tough enough, so he won't be able to endure your chaotic body at the 3rd layer. Looks like we can only use heavenly resources, Jianqin said regretfully. Just the resources he had to use to go from the 1st layer to the 3rd layer were terrifying, and the energy required to go from the 3rd layer to the 4th layer was even more terrifying. Jianqin could already imagine just how difficult it would be for Xiao Bao to increase his strength here. 2 chaotic bodies appearing in a world where the spiritual energy of the world was pitifully weak to the sword spirits was definitely a tragedy for the chaotic body. Jianqin calmed himself down. He looked at Xiao Bao lovingly and said, Xiao Bao, the name your mother gave you doesn't sound good. Can I change it for you? All right. Xiao Bao did not object and agreed in a straightforward manner. Then let me think about it. What name should I give you? Jianqin frowned as he seriously pondered. The heavenly enchantress' eyes turned cold. She arrived before Jianqin and snatched Xiao Bao away. She said, You don't need to worry about this. I've already thought of a name for Xiao Bao. He'll be called Shangguan Bao, Shangguan Baoer? Why do you want him to have the surname Shangguan? Jianqin asked in some doubt. The heavenly enchantress coldly replied, I will never change Xiao Bao's surname to Changyang. After a moment of thought, Jianqin said seriously, I don't plan on changing Xiao Bao's surname to Changyang either, and using Jian as his surname doesn't sound good either. Whatever, we'll do as you say. Xiao Bao will have the surname Shangguan, but will have to change his name. Jianqin and the heavenly enchantress had an intense argument over Xiao Bao's name. But in the end, they finally settled on Xiao Bao's name, Shangguan Aojin. Xiao Bao seemed to be rather satisfied with the name. He constantly cheered in the heavenly enchantress' arms. Afterward, Jianqin took out 20 10,000-year-old heavenly resources from his space ring and gave them to the heavenly enchantress, so that Xiao Bao could use them when he reached Foundation establishment. Most of the heavenly resources had been found by the White Tiger on Dragon Island, but now that the White Tiger had reached Class 7, the heavenly resources were basically useless to him. They were perfect for Xiao Bao. At this moment, Jianqin became stern. He sternly stared at the heavenly enchantress and said, "Heavenly enchantress, there's something else I hope you can help me with. My good friend, Deity, is the war god of the 100 races. His identity has already been discovered by the protector clan of Changyang Prefecture. The great elder of Changyang Prefecture, Changyang Qingyan, wants me to use the saint's fruit in exchange, or he'll announce Tai's identity. At that time, the experts of the Beast God continent and the Tianyuan continent will come to make trouble for us. In order to protect Tai's identity, Senior Ruijin and I have already decided to seal the tunnel between Changyang Prefecture and the outside world. However, it'll be rather difficult for us to seal it with our current strength, so I hope you can assist us. You should deal with the trouble you've caused yourself," the heavenly enchantress said rather mercilessly. Afterward, she looked at the sword spirits and said, "I hope you can pass on the cultivation methods suitable for Xiao Bao to him." Xing did not hesitate at all. After all, Xiao Bao was Jianqin's child. She directly extended a finger at Xiao Bao, and with a flash of violet light, it disappeared into Xiao Bao's forehead. Xiao Bao tilted his head and immediately fell asleep on the heavenly enchantress' shoulder. The heavenly enchantress gently glanced at the sleeping Xiao Bao. She had already achieved her objective, so there was no need for her to stay any longer. She turned into a streak of light and left with Xiao Bao, disappearing into the distant horizon very soon. Jianqin sighed at the sky after the heavenly enchantress' departure. He was both happy and worried. He was happy because he suddenly had a son, but he was worried because the heavenly enchantress had refused to deal with Changyang Prefecture with him. This would increase the pressure on them this time. "I can't leak information about my son before I deal with Deity, or it'll probably cause a lot of trouble for Xiao Bao. Even the heavenly enchantress might be affected," Jianqin thought to himself. He knew that if information about Deity was leaked and he did not hand Deity over, the experts of the Beast God continent and the Tianyuan continent would probably do everything they could to take revenge on his family and friends, especially those close to him. As a result, he could not let too many people know about Xiao Bao's identity. "I never thought that she would be the one to benefit the most from absorbing the supreme Yin force and supreme Yang force from the Yin-Yang Saint Rock," Qing Suo murmured to himself. His face shone with a strange light. Xing sighed as well. The mother of the innate chaotic body will be blessed by the heavens. She will benefit immensely from giving birth to the chaotic body. Not only will her strength increase rapidly, but her potential is limitless as well. If she can continue down this path, she'll definitely become an immortal emperor in the future, and the strongest among all immortal emperors. Jianqin returned to Changyang Prefecture and did not leak information about Xiao Bao. However, when Ruijin learned that the heavenly enchantress had refused to help them deal with Changyang Prefecture, he obviously felt extremely regretful. "We can't delay the sealing of Changyang Prefecture any longer. We've already finished our preparations, so let's set off immediately," Ruijin said sternly. They had already made careful arrangements for what they would do next. Afterward, Jianqin, Ruijin, Honglian, and Yu set off for the protector clan of Changyang Prefecture. Yu also stowed away the bright moon divine hall that hovered above Lore City. The bright moon divine hall was their most powerful defense against Changyang Prefecture. Chapter 1192. In the quiet mountain range, from time to time, low and loud roars of magical beasts could be heard. Some magical beasts were even killing each other in the forest. The battle was very fierce. The loud roars and mournful screams spread far and wide. Some of the weaker magical beasts were so scared that they shrunk their necks and hid in their caves, not daring to come out. High up in the sky, a large group of second-grade and third-grade vultures were circling around. Their cold and emotionless eyes continuously scanned the area below. Once they found a suitable target, they would immediately swarm over and turn the magical beasts into delicious food in their mouths. Although the individual strength of these vultures was lacking, they had the advantage in numbers. There were several hundred of them, and even class for magical beasts would become their food. A loud cry rang out from the distance. A small black suddenly appeared on the horizon, quickly flying towards the group of vultures. The group of vultures immediately became uneasy. They scrambled to escape in all directions, as if they had encountered something terrifying that made them feel fear. The black dot rapidly grew in size. It was a flying magical beast with the body of a snake for wings and a pair of sharp claws under its abdomen. It dove into the flock of vultures and grabbed a vulture with its mouth. Its sharp claws also grabbed one vulture each. The sharp claws pierced through the vulture's body, and the intense pain caused the vulture to involuntarily let out a mournful cry. Several hundred vultures fled in all directions. At the same time, they shot out arrows condensed from energy from their mouths. It quickly shot towards the four-winged demonic beast. The four-winged magical beast did not dodge at all. Its bright eyes were filled with mockery as it used its body to endure the most powerful attacks from the vultures. Ding, 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 a series of metallic sounds rang out. The seemingly inconspicuous black feathers on the four-winged magical beast were actually extremely tough. The most powerful attacks from the vultures did not pose any threat to it at all. This four-winged magical beast had already reached the 5th rank. The difference between the 5th rank and the 4th rank was like a watershed. Hundreds of 2nd and 3rd rank vultures could indeed easily kill a 4th rank magical beast, but they couldn't do anything to a 5th rank magical beast. The four-winged magical beast flapped its wings. It had a vulture in its mouth and 2 vultures in its claws that were still struggling violently. Its entire body transformed into a ray of black light as it charged towards the group of vultures. It spread its wings, and those steel-like wings made contact with the vultures' bodies. All of the vultures' bodies were cut in half, and their blood dyed the sky. In just a few seconds, over 20 vultures had died to the four-winged magical beast. At this moment, the four-winged magical beast stopped chasing after the other vultures. It glanced at the fleeing vultures with an icy gaze, filled with a sliver of disdain in a very human-like manner. This four-winged magical beast seemed to have sensed something. A glint flashed in its human-like eyes. It raised its head and stared at a certain place in the sky for a while. Soon after, it flapped its wings, and its body suddenly descended. It quickly disappeared into the dense forest. Several hundred meters in the sky, the space there suddenly began to twist violently. Afterwards, the space was ripped open, and a colorful space gate stabilized in just a few seconds. Ruijin, Honglian, Genshin, and Yu Yu emerged from it one after another. After the 4 of them emerged, the space gate rapidly vanished as well, allowing the space there to return to normal. Ruijin, Honglian, Yu Yu, and Genshin all stared at the space before them. The world gate between the Protector clan, Changyang Prefecture, and the outside world was hidden 100 meters in front of them. Although the world gate was hidden extremely well, such that no one could see through it at all, its only flaw was that its location could not be changed. At this moment, Ruijin seemed to sense something. A strange light appeared in his eyes as he turned his head to stare at the forest below. His calm gaze pierced through the cover of the forest below, clearly seeing what was hidden below. I never thought that I'd actually find a winged dragon here. It even has a sliver of the power of my dragon bloodline flowing through it, Ruijin said in surprise. This was definitely an extremely surprising matter to him. The dense forest below began to shake slightly. The four-winged magical beast that had been hiding below slowly flew up. It was very intelligent, and it knew that Ruijin had discovered it. As such, it did not continue to hide. The four-winged magical beast did not move quickly. Its head was very low as it flew over to Ruijin at a steady pace. It prostrated itself on the ground as the viciousness in its eyes completely vanished, replaced by respect. The four-winged magical beast was a winged dragon that possessed a sliver of dragon bloodline. Although it was not pure, it was still a close relative of the dragon clan. As a result, It was extremely sensitive to the presence of the emperor of the dragon clan. Now that the dragon clan had already vanished, Ruijin immediately felt particularly close to the winged dragon when he saw it here. He asked, "Are there any other members of the dragon clan apart from you?" The winged dragon could clearly hear Ruijin's words. It immediately shook its head and produced a series of deep growls at the same time. Ruijin gently sighed as a sliver of disappointment appeared in his eyes. After a moment of thought, he said to the winged dragon, "A great battle is about to erupt here. Leave immediately so that you won't be affected." The winged dragon respectfully bowed to Ruijin and left. Afterwards, it flapped its 4 metal wings and immediately shot off into the distance as a blur. It moved extremely quickly. After the winged dragon left, Ruijin looked back at the World Gate in Changyang Prefecture. He said with a deep voice, "I'll immediately use the supreme secret technique of the Dragon Clan to seal up this space. Prepare yourselves. As I use the seal, there will be a huge ripple of energy. It'll definitely attract the attention of the people inside. At that time, you must enter the protector clans to fight. You can't clash with them outside." Honglian, Jianqin, and Yu sternly nodded. Soon after, flames shot into the sky, and the temperature in the surroundings began to rapidly rise. The 9 refined Godfire feathers and scorching Godfire hairpin had already appeared on Honglian. With a flip of his hand, Jianqin pulled out the Emperor armament from his space ring. He gripped it tightly in his hand as the chaotic Niden in his dantian constantly surged with chaotic force, filling every inch of his body in a single moment. The palm-sized bright moon divine hall was also held in Sima Yu's hands. Then, she gently tossed it into the air. The bright moon divine hall grew with the wind. In the blink of an eye, it became tens of meters long. The tightly shut door slowly opened. Immediately, a ray of bright moonlight shone out from the door. The moonlight enveloped Sima Yu's body and then sucked her into the door. Ruijin also pulled out the 9 dragon slaying grass from his space ring. Every single stalk was as tall as an adult, but they seemed extremely ordinary. They seemed like ordinary weeds, without anything special about them. They were all dragon slaying grass that had lived for over 1,000,000 years. Vast amounts of pure vital energies were hidden within them, but just like the saint's fruit, they had already returned to their original state. The 9 stalks of dragon slaying grass formed a formation in the air. Ruijin bit his finger and dripped 9 droplets of golden blood onto the dragon's slaying grass. As soon as the blood came in contact with the dragon's slaying grass, it was immediately absorbed by the dragon's slaying grass. The green leaves of the dragon slaying grass slowly began to turn golden as well. Extremely pure vital energies radiated from them. The vital energies hidden within seemed to have been activated by the droplet of blood. Ruijin did not stop at all. He immediately formed hand seals and used a secret technique of the Dragon Clan to activate all the vital energies within the dragon slaying grass. Immediately, a tremendous amount of vital energies that even surprised Jianqin leaked out from the 9 stalks of dragon slaying grass. After 1,000,000 years of accumulation, no one could predict just how vast the vital energies within the dragon slaying grass were. A huge and majestic divine hall stood silently on the floating piece of land within the protector clan of Changyang Prefecture. Changyang Qingyin paced back and forth in an extremely luxurious room with a heavy heart. His face was filled with anxiety and eagerness. He was nowhere near as composed as he usually was. In the past few days, all Changyang Qingyin thought about was the saint's fruit. He no longer cared about the departure of Changyang Zhu Xiao and the others. Nothing was more important than him becoming the Holy Emperor. Although the strength of Changyang Prefecture had plummeted with the departure of Changyang Zhu Xiao and the others, Changyang Qingyin still remained indifferent. This was because the Changyang Prefecture was a protector clan. Even though it had been reduced to the weakest of the 10 protector clans, its status was still not something that could be replaced by any other organization. The heritage of the protector clans was so great that it could not be compared to any other ancient clan. At this moment, Changyang Qing Yinfeng walked in from outside. His complexion was ruddy, and he was brimming with energy. He was in an extremely good condition. He had been injured by Changyang Zuyinxiao's founding god's fist back then, but he had completely recovered from his injuries with the assistance of the medicines from Changyang Prefecture. Qin Yin, do you think Jianqin will hand over the saint's fruit for the war god of the 100 races? Changyang Qing Yinfeng asked. Changyang Qing Yinfeng sank into his thoughts. After a moment of thought, he said, I've specially investigated Jianqin over the past few days. According to what I know, he's a person who values friendship. He definitely won't ignore the safety of his friends for his own benefits. If the information about him is correct, he'll definitely hand over the saint's fruit obediently because he knows that the war god will die if he doesn't. Changyang Qing Yinfeng remained silent for a while before sternly saying, Qin Yin, you should know what the appearance of the war god of the 100 races means to us. Our Tianyuan continent no longer has a sovereign like in ancient times. If we let the war god of the 100 races go for the saint's fruit, he'll definitely be a disaster for our Tianyuan continent once he matures. Not to mention that we're using him to threaten Jianqin for the saint's fruit. In the future, our Changyang clan will definitely be his first target for vengeance once he matures. Changyang Qingyin sinisterly smiled with that. He said, Yunfeng, your worries are completely unnecessary because the war god has no chance of becoming a sovereign. Changyang Qing Yinfeng was stunned, but he understood very soon. He evilly smiled. So you're saying that you plan on leaking the war god's identity as soon as you obtain the saint's fruit? That's right. The war god will definitely become a sovereign in the future. Even if I use the saint's fruit to break through to the holy emperor level, I'll still be far from being his opponent. How can I let such a powerful enemy grow? Changyang Qing Yin sneered. Then I don't have to worry, Changyang Qing Yin smiled. At this moment, Changyang Qingyin's face changed. He heavily said, Oh no, someone wants to attack our Changyang prefecture. With that, Changyang Qingyin vanished. When he reappeared, he was outside the divine hall. At the same time, the heavy sound of a bell rang out, spreading through the entire Changyang prefecture. It was the sound of the bell of prime clarity. It was filled with a sense of desolation, like the rumbling of a war drum. The quiet Changyang prefecture immediately became lively with the sound of the bell. More and more people emerged from their houses or flew over from the various mountains on the floating continent. The bell of prime clarity could produce two sounds. The first was peaceful, used to welcome important guests. The second sound was soul-stirring. It was filled with a sense of desolation. It was a warning for battle. The 5 remaining great elders of Changyang Prefecture stood side by side before the divine hall. They were all stern. Chapter 1193. Outside the world gate of Changyang Prefecture, the 9 stalks of dragon's saliva floated in the air in a formation. The vast amount of essence hidden within them had been completely activated, causing each stalk to shine with a dazzling golden light. Vast amounts of essence pulsed in and out. Ruijin was stern. He formed a seal with his hands and constantly changed the seals, as if he had established an extremely obscure and mysterious connection with the 9 stalks of dragon's saliva. Honglian, Jianqin, and you were all stern as they stared at the space in front of them. The space that the 3 of them were staring at suddenly began to distort violently. Afterwards, the space suddenly cracked open, forming a 100-meter-tall space gate. This was the world gate of Changyang Prefecture. It was the only path to the outside world. The size of the world gate could be changed at will, but 100 meters was its limit. Through the world gate, they could clearly see what was inside. It was a world that seemed similar to the outside world, but it was completely different. There were verdant mountains and clear waters in there. The scenery was so beautiful that it could not be compared to the outside world. In particular, the dense energy of the world there was countless times more powerful than the outside world. If they cultivated in a miniature world like this, they would definitely be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. A tremendous presence radiated from the world gate. Unconcealable fury was present within. With Chanyang Qingyin at the lead, several dozen experts stood in the world gate. Their presences seemed to have fused together, charging out like a primordial beast. Chanyang Qingyin coldly glanced past Jianqin and the others before looking at Jianqin in the end. He said with a deep voice, "Jianqin, state your intentions." Jianqin, Honglian, and you looked at each other. As if they could read each other's minds, the three of them actually charged into the world gate at the same time. Honglian charged at the very front. Her body burned with flames, making her seem like a god of fire. Before she had even approached the world gate, a great sea of fire had drifted out from her body, quickly sweeping toward the people of Changyang Prefecture. The 5 great elders of Changyang Prefecture immediately rejoiced inside when they saw Honglian and the others recklessly charge into the miniature world of the Protector clan. They sneered mockingly. The 5 of them knew Honglian's strength. She was a holy emperor at great perfection, and her original form was a scorching divine phoenix. Coupled with the 2 powerful origin energy weapons, Honglian possessed the right to challenge holy emperors. Even if she faced a holy emperor, she would be undefeatable. If they were outside, the 5 great elders of Changyang Prefecture would not be able to do anything to Honglian even if they worked together. But it was a different story inside the Protector clan. The 5 great elders of Changyang Prefecture and the several dozen saint rulers behind them all retreated at the same time. They did not stop Honglian, nor did they resist the sea of fire that drifted over. They could only watch as the terrifyingly hot sea of fire entered the Protector clan. The 5 great elders of Changyang Prefecture all smiled mysteriously, as if they were welcoming the arrival of Honglian and the others. Although the battle in the miniature world would cause great destruction, they possessed an absolute advantage in the miniature world. Honglian and Jianqin charged into the miniature world one after another. The bright moon divine hall that Yu controlled had shrunk slightly as well. It followed closely behind the 2 of them. "Close the world gate," Chanyang Qingyin said to the saint rulers behind him through a communication technique. A vast and surging energy surged out from his body, enveloping him. The energy rapidly shrank, condensing into a set of energy armor on him very soon. The 4 other great elders all condensed their own sets of armor as well, adding another layer of protection. Afterward, Chanyang Qingyin and Chanyang Yuanwuji, who was only second to him, dealt with Honglian. Chanyang Qingyin Feng and Chanyang Qingjuri dealt with Jianqin, and Chanyang Yuanjinghua dealt with Yu in the bright moon divine hall. The battle between Honglian and Jianqin was very intense. Flames danced in the surroundings as sword qi crisscrossed. Terrifying ripples of energy turned into terrifying shock waves, causing space to violently tremble and mountains to collapse. Even the floating continent in the distance violently trembled, as if an earthquake had occurred. Yu's battle was much quieter. Yu stood at the entrance of the bright moon divine hall with the moon god's scepter in her hand. A hazy layer of moonlight fell from the ceiling, protecting her. Her opponent, Chanyang Yuan Zhenghua, knew that the weak-looking girl possessed unbelievable power. Even Chanyang Qingyin had been heavily injured by her, so he did not dare to approach her. Instead, he stood there with his sword and sent out strands of powerful sword qi. However, the strands of sword qi were shattered as soon as they came in contact with the thin layer of moonlight. They were unable to even make the barrier tremble. Yu stood quietly at the entrance of the bright moon divine hall. She only stared in Jianqin's direction with her large, beautiful eyes. She did not even glance at Chanyang Yuan Jinghua, who constantly sent out sword qi in an attempt to injure her. Changyang Yuan, Zhenhua's face paled and became more and more sunken. He was one of the great elders of Changyang Prefecture, a supreme expert who had reached the level of Holy Emperor, yet he had actually been ignored by a girl whose strength he did not take seriously at all. Moreover, his sword Qi was unable to injure her at all, which made him furious. He felt extremely frustrated, but there was nothing he could do. The saint rulers who had not been involved in the battle all used secret techniques to close the world gate. They wanted to trap Jinshin's group inside. The world gate, that was 100 meters wide, began to slowly close up. However, at this moment, the bright moon divine hall began to fly backwards. It became stuck in the closing world gate, preventing it from closing up. The expressions of the saint rulers behind changed. The bright moon divine hall was extremely tough. Although the world gate had closed up, it was unable to do anything to the bright moon divine hall. For a moment, the bright moon divine hall and the world gate could only remain like that. The world gate could not be closed, and the bright moon divine hall could not be moved. Go awaken the Emperor Armament. An older saint ruler called out before leading a few other saint rulers toward the forbidden grounds in the back mountains. Jianshin and Honglian fought an extremely intense battle against the 4 great elders of Changyang Prefecture. Every time they clashed, they possessed devastating might, causing the entire miniature world to violently tremble. Pitch black spatial cracks constantly appeared, approaching the brink of collapse. Chapter 1194. Several saint rulers sat in a circle around the Emperor Armament in the forbidden grounds of the back mountains of Changyang Prefecture. All of them had their eyes closed as they formed seals with their hands. They were using a secret technique to awaken the Emperor Armament. The battle in the distance became more and more intense. The surging ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the miniature world as terrifying shockwaves, even affecting the forbidden grounds slightly. However, this did not affect their determination to awaken the Emperor Armament at all. As they all spat out a mouthful of essence blood onto the Emperor Armament, it began to gently tremble before becoming even more violent. A powerful layer of light appeared, surrounding the 30-meter-long Emperor Armament as it slowly rose from the ground, rising into the sky. Suddenly, an extremely vast sword Qi radiated from the Emperor Armament. It was earth-shaking and peerless. It was so great that even the Holy Emperor at great perfection could not compare to it. The saint rulers who had awakened the Emperor Armament were all ghastly pale. They all collapsed on the ground, as if they had used up all their strength. However, they all smiled from success. They were filled with confidence in the Emperor Armament. They were certain that as long as the Emperor Armament was awakened, there was nothing that their protector clan could not deal with in the world. The Emperor Armament hovered in the air. Without anyone controlling it, it shot toward Honglian as a streak of light. Once the Emperor Armament was awakened in the protector clan, it would automatically kill all targets that were hostile. Although it was not as powerful as when it was controlled by someone, it could not be underestimated. Honglian dealt with Changyang Qingyun and Changyang Yuanwuji's fierce attacks with ease. She did not panic at all when the Emperor Armament shot toward her. With a flip of her hand, 3 thumb-sized, fiery red phoenixes appeared in her hand. She gently tossed them, and the 3 phoenixes immediately turned into 3 10-meter-long phoenixes that burned with flames. Their bodies were illusory, condensed from flames. 3 phoenixes condensed from flames unfurled their wings and charged toward Changyang Yuanwuji under Honglian's control. Soon afterward, another 5 bright red feathers appeared in Honglian's hand. They flickered with a blood-red light. They were not real phoenix feathers, but something she had refined using special materials over the years. The 5 feathers flew out from Honglian's hand, leaving behind 5 scarlet streaks of flame in the air. As they flew, they rapidly expanded, becoming huge feathers that were several dozen meters long in the end. They were enveloped by a layer of roaring flames. trapping Changyang Qinyin in a formation that seemed simple but contained the mysteries of the world. When the formation was activated, the space within quickly blurred. Changyang Qinyin vanished as well, having been sucked into the formation. The formation formed from the 5 feathers violently trembled as sparks scattered. Trapped within, Changyang Qinyin did his best to break free. However, the formation was one of the most powerful formations within the Divine Flame Phoenix clan. Although he was unable to unleash its full power due to a lack of materials, it was still able to keep Changyang Qinyin busy for a while. The Emperor armament shot over like a hot knife through butter. Having broken free from the entanglement of Changyang Yuanjinghua and Changyang Qinyin, the 2 strongest experts in Changyang Prefecture, Honglian had also freed herself up to control the scorching Godfire hairpin to block the Emperor armament's attack. The scorching Godfire hairpin gave off a faint presence of origin energy. It collided with the Emperor armament under a layer of scorching white flames. With a deafening boom, an extremely powerful ripple of energy erupted, forming a storm of destruction. The mountains in a radius of 10 kilometers immediately collapsed, turning into rolling rocks and dust that drifted through the air. The mountains 10 kilometers away collapsed as well. Space trembled violently, twisting and distorting. Pitch-black space cracks appeared, looking like ferocious ghosts opening their ghastly mouths, swallowing everything that came close to their mouths. The 18 divine palaces in the sky had completely transformed from phantoms into solid entities. Every single one of them gave off an immortal divine glow. Streams of powerful and mysterious energy surged out of the divine palaces, fusing into the space to stabilize it. The clash between the scorching Godfire hairpin and the Emperor armament was equivalent to a clash between 2 holy Emperor experts. If it were not for the 18 divine halls, the miniature world probably would have collapsed long ago. On the other side, Jianqin was also engaged in an intense battle with the 2 great elders of Changyang Prefecture. At the same time, he paid attention to Zhan Kuang on Honglian's side. Changyang Qingjuri was the weakest of his opponents, so he became Jianqin's main target. A few slashes appeared on Changyang Qingjuri as they clashed for a while. Blood dyed his luxurious white robes red. If it were not for Changyang Qinyin keeping Jianqin busy at a crucial moment, Changyang Qingjuri's injuries would have been even more severe. Enter the 18 divine halls and activate the encirclement. An old and heavy voice rang out from behind. Immediately, 18 saint rulers flew into the air, heading for the divine halls. The 18 experts entered the 18 divine halls. At that moment, the inanimate divine halls seemed to possess souls. They possessed an indescribable intelligence and began to move. All 18 divine halls stacked on top of each other, slowly falling toward Honglian's head. Honglian's expression changed. She raised her head high and glared at the divine halls that were slowly falling toward her. Her beautiful face finally became stern because she had suddenly discovered that she was unable to move. As the divine halls fell from above, she seemed to have been immobilized. No matter how hard she tried, she was unable to break free. This is spatial force. The mysteries it contains far surpass the comprehension of regular holy emperors. This is something that only a peak holy emperor, or even someone who has surpassed the holy emperor, can grasp. Even regular holy emperors would struggle to break free in a short amount of time after being immobilized. Honglian was extremely stern. Honglian's body had been immobilized. As the divine halls drew closer and closer to her, even the energy in her body was affected, becoming rather difficult to control. Boom! With a great sound, the Emperor armament struck Honglian while she was immobilized. Honglian's origin energy treasure, the 9 refined Godfire feather, immediately began to emit a scorching white light, nullifying the Emperor armament's attack. Honglian would have been blown away if it were any other time, but she had been immobilized. She could not move at all. so the terrifying force from the Emperor armament could not be nullified, causing her to suffer even more damage. Honglian became rather pale. Although the Emperor armament was unable to break through the 9 refined Godfire feathers protection, the powerful force still caused her organs to violently shake. Chapter 1195. Hong Lian struggled as hard as she could. The flames on her body had already turned from red to white, but no matter how hard she tried, it was to no avail. She was unable to break free from the invisible binding force around her body. The encirclement formation could even trap holy emperors for 4 whole hours. Although Honglian possessed battle prowess on par with the Holy Emperor through the Origin energy treasure, her personal strength was still at the great perfection of the Holy Emperor. Her comprehension of the mysteries of the world was like an insurmountable chasm compared to the Holy Emperor, so she was unable to do anything about the encirclement formation. Up ahead, the surging sword Qi attacked once again. The Emperor armament shot toward Honglian as a resplendent streak of light. It moved as fast as lightning. The light in Honglian's eyes pulsed. Her body was bound, but her mind was not affected. She used her mind to control the scorching Godfire hairpin to collide with the Emperor armament, stopping the attack 100 meters away. With a boom, the Emperor armament and the scorching Godfire hairpin were both knocked away by the great force of the impact. Swish! The scorching Godfire hairpin was immediately controlled by Honglian. Ignoring the God artifact, it whistled towards the 18 divine halls in the sky with deep white flames. The space below the celestial hall rippled like water. When the scorching Godfire hairpin was 10 meters away from the celestial hall, it was unable to advance any further. Honglian's mind fused with the hairpin, so she could sense it even more clearly. She found that the hairpin seemed to have collided with a ball of soft, elastic cotton. No matter how powerful it was unable to break free. Honglian shivered inside. She stared at the divine halls with shining eyes and said with a deep voice, "This is another use of spatial force. I never thought that the 18 divine halls would have such a wondrous ability when stacked together. Probably even the Holy Emperor of the humans and the Holy Emperor of the magical beasts haven't grasped this ability." Honglian gained a completely new understanding of the heritage of the 10 protector clans. The fact that the protector clans could stand for 1,000,000 years on the Tianyuan continent obviously meant that they were extraordinary. Their heritage was enough to fend off the attacks of the Holy Emperor. Yu panicked inside the bright moon divine hall when she saw that Honglian was in trouble. Pure moonlight force began to surge from the moon god's scepter in her hand. She wanted to use the moonlight force within the scepter to assist Honglian. "My disciple, don't panic. Her armor is filled with origin energy, so it's very tough. She'll be fine in a short amount of time. The power within the moon god scepter can only be used once. You can't waste it like this." Fairy Haoyue's gentle voice rang out in Yu Yu's head. The moonlight force from the scepter rapidly dimmed, having been secretly controlled by Fairy Haoyue. "Master, but Senior Honglian is already injured. If this continues, it'll only be worse for Senior Honglian," Yu Yu said worriedly. Yu Yu was worried. Although she did not have a close relationship with Honglian, the latter had still helped the Jianqin through many difficulties. As a result, Yu Yu always felt grateful to Honglian. She's a magical beast, and no ordinary magical beast. Her body is so tough that humans can't compare to it. These injuries won't affect her at all. "My disciple, just stay here and watch. This will be beneficial to your future cultivation. If you really come across any danger, there'll obviously be people who will step in." Fairy Haoyue's voice was calm and cold. Honglian was firmly suppressed by the encirclement of the 18 divine halls. Although the encirclement could restrain the Holy Emperor, it was unable to attack at all. Honglian saw that the scorching Godfire heavenly hairpin was useless against the encirclement, so she immediately gave up on the idea of forcefully breaking through. She focused on controlling the hairpin to block the attacks from the Emperor armament. A turbulent ripple of energy appeared nearby. Changyang Qingyan had already broken out of the formation. He was in a rather horrible shape. His silver-white hair had become slightly wrinkled in the flames, while his snow-white robes had become slightly black. He was enraged, and his face was ashen. He swept his sharp gaze and immediately found Hong Lian, who was bound by the encirclement formation. He immediately let out a roar and charged toward Hong Lian. A tremendous pressure from the air crushed down. Changyang Qingyan used a Saint-tier battle skill with ease. He did not need to charge it up at all. Devastating energy rapidly gathered in his hand and viciously struck Hong Lian's back. Bang! With a heavy sound, Hong Lian's scorching godfire heavenly hairpin blocked the Emperor armament. She was unable to dodge Changyang Qingyan's Saint-tier battle skill as she was trapped, so she took the attack firmly. Hong Lian swayed slightly, but she remained immobile. Changyang Qingyan, on the other hand, was constantly pushed back by the terrifying ripples of energy. You think you can harm me with just you? You're dreaming. Hong Lian sneered as her mocking voice rang out clearly in Changyang Qingyan's ears. Changyang Qingyan's Saint-tier battle skill was unable to harm Hong Lian, who was protected by the 9 refined Godfire feather at great perfection. Changyang Qingyan's face became extremely sunken. He was the greatest expert of the Protector clan in Changyang Prefecture. He possessed a great status, yet he was mocked by Hong Lian. This was an extremely great humiliation to him. Changyang Qingyan furiously roared out. He struck out with lightning speed, destroying the 3 phoenixes that were entangled with Changyang Yuanwuji, saving him. Afterward, he aggressively charged toward Jianqin as cold-killing intent flickered in his eyes. At this moment, Jianqin just happened to stab through Changyang Qingjuri's chest. Blood dripped from the tip of the sword as a strand of destructive chaotic force invaded Changyang Qingjuri's body. Like a wild horse, it rampaged through his body, destroying his vitality. Changyang Qingjuri became sheet white in a single moment. He vomited a large mouthful of blood, which turned into a bloody mist in the air. He had suffered a fatal injury. Jianqin immediately withdrew the Emperor armament from Changyang Qingjuri's body and used the illusory flash. He left behind an afterimage as he retreated with lightning speed, entering the bright moon divine hall in the blink of an eye. He was confident, but he did not believe he was Changyang Qingyan's opponent. Whether it was Jianqin's reactions or movements, they were extremely fast. Changyang Qingyan could only watch as Jianqin hid in the bright moon divine hall. Even though he hated Jianqin to the core, there was nothing he could do about the bright moon divine hall. Juri immediately returned to the ancestral hall to heal. Yunfeng, Wuji, the 3 of us will control the Emperor armament together, Changyang Qingyan coldly said. Chapter 1196. The 3 of them arrived below the huge hilt of the Emperor armament at the same time. Their hands were enveloped by a layer of surging saint force as they touched the hilt. The saint force within them surged like a river, endlessly pouring into the Emperor armament. The Emperor armament immediately began to shine brightly after receiving the saint force from the 3 Holy Emperor experts. The sword chi became even sharper, causing the space that had been reinforced by the 18 divine halls to tremble slightly. Its power was rapidly increasing. Although the Emperor armament could still display great power when no one was controlling it, its power would be far greater than when no one was controlling it. Hong Lian sternly stared at the Emperor armament that was rapidly growing stronger. The scorching godfire hairpin had already returned to her hand, while the pure energy of fire within her constantly poured into the origin energy treasure. Now that her body had been restrained, she had become a live target. Hong Lian felt quite the pressure when she had to face the Emperor armament of the Protector clan in such a state. Jianqin and you stood side by side at the entrance of the bright moon divine hall. A bright barrier of light fell from the ceiling, separating the 2 of them from the outside world like a natural barrier. The barrier seemed thin, but the power it hid was unbelievably great. Even the Emperor armament struggled to break through it. Jianqin clenched his fists tightly. He also felt a sliver of worry for Honglian. He did not doubt Honglian's strength at all, but Honglian was currently blocking the Emperor armament while her body was restrained, so it would be difficult for her to display her full strength. Now, this was the main battlefield between Honglian and the Emperor armament. Jianqin could no longer interfere. He did not have the protection of the Origin energy treasure, so he could not even withstand a single attack from the Emperor armament. Even if he released Tai Ta from the artifact space, it would be useless. The Bright Moon Divine Hall had to remain here to prevent the World Gate from closing, so it could not move. Obviously, it could not help Honglian. Boom! With a deafening boom, the scorching Godfire hairpin collided with the three Emperor armaments. A devastating shockwave of energy erupted, causing the towering mountains in the distance to collapse while the floating continent became covered in cracks. The environment of the miniature world had suffered a devastating blow. The scorching Godfire hairpin was blown away while the Emperor armament retreated several hundred meters as well. Honglian trembled as her face paled slightly. The Emperor armament had indeed become much more powerful under the control of Changyang Qinyin, and Heiyu. It had surpassed the level of regular Holy Emperor armaments, but she was currently suppressed by the encirclement of the encirclement. Not only was she immobilized, but she could only use 80% of her strength as well. Blocking the attacks of the Emperor armament had become rather difficult for her. They'll suffer a backlash from controlling the Emperor armament. I just need to keep them busy, and they'll naturally be unable to last much longer. Honglian thought before doing her best to control the scorching Godfire hairpin to block the attacks of the Emperor armament. In the blink of an eye, the scorching Godfire hairpin had clashed with the Emperor armament over 10 times. During that time, the Emperor armament struck Honglian a few times. Although it could not penetrate the 9 refined Godfire feathers, the powerful force still ruptured Honglian's organs. Blood oozed from the corner of her mouth. The Origin energy treasure is just too powerful. If this continues, we'll die from the backlash before we can even destroy it, Changyang Qinyanfeng said with a heavy voice. He was extremely stern. We can't continue like this. It'll only be bad for us. The Emperor armament will begin to suffer a backlash before long, Changyang Wuji said in a worried tone. Changyang Yuan Wuji said in a panic. The Emperor armament was very powerful, but they could not control it for too long. Changyang Qinyanxin understood this as well. His face became uneasy. If they could not chase away the invaders today, their Changyang prefecture would lose all its dignity. However, what he could not accept was that the disaster that had befallen Changyang prefecture today was all because of Jianqin. The saint's fruit must be on Jianqin. It's impossible for him to leave something so valuable with someone else. Since he's brought such a great disaster to our Changyang prefecture today, we can't let him leave. We have to make him die here. Changyang Qinyanxin calculated. He made up his mind very quickly and said with a sunken face, "Activate the Origin formation." What? The Origin formation? Changyang Qinyanfeng was shocked. It's already been several tens of thousands of years since we've used the Origin formation in Changyang prefecture. According to the records, although the Origin formation is extremely powerful and can even kill peak Holy Emperor experts, the cost of activating it is just far too great. It'll suck away all the energy of the world in this miniature world, Changyang Yuan Wuji said with a rather pale face. The enemy before us is even more difficult to deal with than regular Holy Emperor experts. We can't find anything else that can threaten her apart from the Origin formation, and once she breaks free from the encirclement of the encirclement, who will be her opponent? Changyang Qinyanfeng said. Changyang Qinyanfeng and Changyang Yuan Wuji looked at each other and nodded at the same time. They immediately gave up on controlling the Emperor armament and allowed it to attack Honglian on its own. The three of them hovered in the air as they formed the same seal with their hands. Activating the origin formation required a process. At the same time, it required their energy as a primer. The three of them used their own energy to activate the formation, which would greatly shorten the time required. A few seconds later, the entire miniature world of Changyang Prefecture began to gently tremble. The dense energy of the world, drifting in the air, vanished at an unbelievable rate. A faint speck of golden light suddenly appeared in the air. The golden light was like golden threads, forming a complicated and huge diagram in the air. It filled the entire space. The origin formation was one of Changyang Prefecture's most powerful trump cards. The entire formation was hidden in the air and would only appear when it was activated. As soon as the origin formation appeared, it rapidly absorbed the energy of the world, causing the golden light to become brighter and brighter, more and more dazzling. The origin formation was extremely large. From afar, it seemed like an extremely huge spiderweb. The golden threads intertwined, connecting the 360 points of the formation. All of the points of the formation were connected to the hexagram at the very center of the origin formation. "I'll control the encirclement formation and cooperate with you," a clear voice rang out. A clear voice rang out. Changyang Yuan Jinhua stood above the highest divine hall as 18 stone tablets revolved around him. Through the 18 stone tablets, he could control all 18 divine halls. Changyang Qingyin, Changyang Qingyin Feng, and Changyang Yuan Wuji glanced at Changyang Yuan Jinhua with determined gazes. Afterward, the three of them flew to the hexagram at the center of the origin formation. This was the core that controlled the origin formation. The origin formation began to slowly revolve. Immediately, an extremely terrifying presence permeated the surroundings. Mixed within, it was a powerful might that could destroy the world. It was enough to strike fear into people's hearts. Hong Lian's face drastically changed. The power of the origin formation was actually several times more terrifying than the most powerful killing formation recorded in her inherited memories. This made her feel extremely shocked. In a completely sealed room on the highest floor of the Bright Moon Divine Hall, Fairy Haoyue sat on a piece of jade with her eyes closed. Even though her body was illusory, it was still possible to clearly see her otherworldly beauty and cold arrogance. Suddenly, Fairy Haoyue's eyes snapped open. Her gaze seemed to be able to pierce through the divine hall, allowing her to clearly see what was outside. This is an origin formation. Strange. Why would an origin formation appear here? It doesn't belong to this world. Fairy Haoyue was extremely surprised. One of the 4 great protectors of the Ice Goddess Hall, Shui Yunlan, just happens to be in this generation. Did this origin formation come from her? Fairy Haoyue murmured to herself. An origin formation was only a low-tier formation in her eyes, but she could not help but think deeply when such a formation appeared here. At the same time, Guihai Yidao suddenly opened his eyes as he cultivated on the wave-breaking blade in the forbidden grounds at the back of the Tyrant's Blade School's miniature world. His gaze was as deep as the vast starry sky, as if he could see what was happening in Changyang Prefecture from a great distance away. Changyang Prefecture has actually activated an origin formation. However, the beast has a set of armor and weapons that have been refined by origin energy from who knows where. Even regular holy emperors can't touch her. If Changyang Prefecture doesn't use an origin formation, they really can't do anything to her. Guihai Yidao muttered to himself as he sat on the wave-breaking blade. Guihai Yidao muttered to himself as he sat on the tattered ground. Even though he was extremely far away, he clearly knew what had happened in the Changyang clan. An extremely powerful energy has already gathered in the righteous Yang sword. It's much more powerful than my wave-breaking blade. Looks like there have been more Holy Emperor experts in Changyang Prefecture in the past few years than my Tyrant's Blade School. Yang Lai, I wonder when you'll be able to return. Guihai Yidao was melancholic as he reminisced about the past. Within Changyang Prefecture, to activate the origin formation, We still need the assistance of 360 people. All clansmen at Heaven Saint Master and above, go to the cores of the origin formation. Changyang Qingyan's loud and dignified voice rang through the entire miniature world. Immediately, a group of clansmen with strength ranging from Heaven Saint Masters to Saint Rulers flew toward the 360 formation cores. Once they entered the 360 formation cores, the terrifying power of the origin formation would be completely unleashed. We have to stop them. Jianqin shivered inside. He immediately flew out of the bright moon divine hall and charged toward the people as quickly as he could. Killing intent surged around him. At that moment, Jianqin had already developed killing intent toward the Heaven Saint Master clansmen. He could not let them enter the cores of the formation. At this moment, the sound of a zither suddenly drifted over. It was gentle and pleasant, like heavenly music. It was not loud, but it drowned out the clamor in Changyang Prefecture, clearly reaching everyone's ears. Chapter 1197. Oh no, it's an attack on the soul. Everyone focus immediately. Don't listen. Changyang Qingyan returned to his senses very quickly and immediately bellowed out. He wanted to use his voice to suppress the sound of the zither and awaken the affected clansmen, but the effects were minimal. Only a few of the stronger Saint Rulers resisted as hard as they could. The weaker Saint Rulers, Heaven Saint Masters, and even weaker clansmen were all affected by the sound of the zither. Their eyes became blurry and they became drowsy. A large group of people had even collapsed on the ground unconscious. The heavenly enchantress. Jianqin shook his head. He was overjoyed. Although he could not see her, he could guess her identity from the unique sound of the zither. The wondrous effects of the zither music became more and more evident. Gradually, the Heaven Saint Masters were unable to endure it any longer and collapsed on the ground in droves. In the end, even a few Saint Rulers followed in their footsteps, falling unconscious. In the blink of an eye, the people who had been charging towards the 360 formation cores had all fallen asleep. Even though the origin formation was very powerful, without the support of 360 people, the formation would not be able to operate. The faces of Changyang Qingyan and the others paled. They all gritted their teeth as their bodies trembled. Their hatred for the heavenly enchantress had reached its limit. They were just about to activate the origin formation and use its power to kill off all the invaders. Not only would they be able to eliminate Jianqin, but they would also be able to obtain the saint's fruit. However, someone had ruined their plan at such a crucial moment, which made them want to vomit blood from anger. The sound of the zither did not stop. Instead, the magic within the music rapidly strengthened. In the end, even the strongest Saint Rulers could not endure it any longer and collapsed on the ground with a plop. Now, there was no one left standing on the floating continent. Only a few Saint Kings remained enscathed in the huge Changyang clan, as well as Yu Yu, who was hiding in the bright moon divine hall. The sound of the zither was unable to penetrate the seemingly thin barrier of light at the entrance of the divine hall. At this moment, the encirclement formation of the 18 divine halls vanished. The 18 Saint Rulers in the main divine hall tumbled out, falling from the sky like rocks. Their eyes were tightly shut, having fallen unconscious. Changyang Yuanjinghua, who stood on the highest divine hall, stared at this scene in shock. Disbelief filled his face while the 18 stone tablets slowly revolved around him. Although he could use the 18 stone tablets to control the halls, he could not use them to form the encirclement formation. This was because each divine hall needed a Saint Ruler to watch over it in order to form the encirclement formation. How can this be? Changyang Yuanjinghua said in a daze. Just a single zither note had reduced a protector clan to such a miserable state. He struggled to accept this. The great protector clan of the Changyang Prefecture was one of the 10 most powerful clans on the continent. They possessed several Holy Emperor experts, several dozen Saint Rulers, and many Heaven Saint Masters. Yet they had all been defeated by a single tune. No matter how great the heritage of the Protector clan was or how many trump cards they possessed, it was all useless before the tune. This was because they were unable to resist a zither note that targeted the soul. At the same time, the zither note could penetrate all obstructions and reach the depths of the mountains. It was useless even if they covered their ears. In the blink of an eye, the Chanyang prefecture that had gained the upper hand and was on the verge of victory had been turned around by a zither note that seemed to have originated from outer space. They were headed toward defeat. The massive origin formation floating in the void had also disappeared. Without anyone to support the formation's 360 formation cores, the origin formation's powerful might could not be unleashed. If it continued to exist, it would only continue to drain the origin chi of this small world. What's going on outside? Yu stood in the bright moon divine hall as she stared at everything that had happened outside in shock. She was filled with doubt. The divine music coming from the void had been isolated by the light screen formed by the moonlight in front of her. The sound of the zither could not enter, so she naturally did not know what had happened outside. She only saw large numbers of people falling to the ground. Honglian regained her freedom, and the flames around her immediately surged, forming a huge sea of fire that enveloped her. Her figure flickered in and out of the sea of fire, making her seem like a god of fire. Her wounds rapidly healed as well. Honglian arrived before the 4 Holy Emperor experts in the scarlet flames. She coldly stared at them and coldly said, "I'd like to see just what you're capable of to fight me now." Chanyang Qingyin and the other 3 great elders had become completely pale. They were great elders of a Protector clan, yet they had actually been humiliated by the enemy in their own territory. This was a vicious slap to their faces, but there was nothing they could say about it. Right now, the only thing they could use to threaten Honglian was the Emperor armament. However, even if they used the Emperor armament to fight Honglian to the death, they would not be able to achieve victory in a short amount of time. As time went on, they would not be able to last much longer, and might even end up dying from the backlash of the Emperor armament. If the Emperor armament's full power can be used, only death awaits you even if you have the protection of the Origin energy armor. Long Zhenhua finally managed to hold back his anger. After quite a while, Chongyang Yuan Zhenhua finally said something. Protector clans were proud, and their dignity could not be sullied. Chongyang Yuan Zhenhua did not want his clan to lose to a Saint King. Chongyang Qingyan's gaze was cold. He stared at Honglian, who was bathed in flames, and coldly snorted, "I really don't know what benefits Jianqin has given you to make the proud experts of the Divine Phoenix clan and the emperors of the Dragon clan abandon their dignity and serve him time and time again, becoming the lackeys of a brat still wet behind the ears." Chongyang Qingyan's voice was filled with naked mockery. Honglian's gaze turned cold. At this moment, her and Jianqin's faces changed at the same time. They had received Ruijin's message. His secret technique was about to be completed, and he wanted them to leave immediately. Otherwise, they would be trapped in the miniature world. Honglian and Jianqin did not hesitate at all. They returned to the Bright Moon Divine Hall as quickly as possible, and the Divine Hall immediately left the miniature world. Without the obstruction of the Bright Moon Divine Hall, the World Gate in Chanyang Prefecture rapidly closed up. Just as the World Gate was about to close up, Chongyang Qingyan charged out with extreme speed. He already knew why Ruijin wanted to seal up Chanyang Prefecture. A red feather refined from a special material appeared in Honglian's hand once again. It was filled with the surging power of fire. Swish! The feather shot into the 2-meter-wide world gate as a red streak of light before loudly exploding. It blocked Chongyang Qingyan inside. Just when the flames were about to spread to the outside world, the world gate had completely closed. 9 dragons trapped the heavens seal. At the same time, Ruijin bellowed out. 9 huge dragons charged out from the 9 stalks of dragons' saliva grass. Every single one of them was 100 meters long, and illusionary. They had been condensed from the vast amounts of vital energy within the dragon's saliva grass. The 9 illusory dragons faced the sky and issued a soundless dragon roar. They tumbled in the air and finally collided with each other. The 9 huge bodies finally condensed into a golden dragon, pearl the size of a human head. It floated in the air and emitted a dazzling radiance. Then it slowly disappeared. It had already sealed the space of this area. Ruijin exhaled deeply. He seemed rather exhausted. Clearly, using the secret technique to seal up Changyang Prefecture had taken him quite a lot of effort. It's finally done. As long as the power of the Dragon Pearl doesn't disperse in the future, the people in Changyang Prefecture won't be able to come out, Ruijin said as if he had been relieved of a heavy burden. Jianqin and Honglian arrived before Ruijin. Jianqin asked Senior Ruijin, "Roughly how long can this seal last?" Ruijin pondered for a moment before replying. The power of the Dragon Pearl is limited, and it cannot be replenished. Under normal circumstances, it can last for 100 years, but the people inside will definitely use everything they have to destroy the seal, which will increase the consumption of the pearl's power. As a result, I'm not sure how long it can keep them sealed for, but it can keep them trapped for a few years at the very least, or even longer. Senior Ruijin, can't we use the same seal again when they're about to break the seal? You had already put the bright moon divine hall away. She stood beside Jianqin and asked. Ruijin shook his head. You don't know, but the 9 stalks of dragon saliva grass I used to seal up Changyang Prefecture were left behind by a senior of the dragon clan who had reached the level of the Holy Emperor. Every single dragon will only leave behind a stalk of dragon saliva grass after they die. My clan has already vanished for far too long, so there are only around a dozen stalks left in the tomb. I've used 9 of them this time, so there's no longer enough left to use the same secret technique. Jianqin and you were both disappointed. They both understood that once the power of the Dragon Pearl used up, Taita's identity would spread across the Tianyuan continent and the Beast God continent. At the same time, he would suffer the swift retribution of Changyang Prefecture. Although they could keep Taita's identity a secret as long as they killed all the people in the clan, it was clearly impossible for them to do so. Jianqin looked around a few times. At the same time, he expanded the senses of his soul in an attempt to find the heavenly enchantress, but he was disappointed. Even when he expanded the senses of his soul to the limit, he failed to find her. Chapter 1198. Jianqin could not help but be surprised when he heard what Ruijin had said. He knew that the heavenly enchantress strength had skyrocketed at an unbelievable rate in the past few years. She was extremely powerful now, where she could be described as unfathomable. However, he had never thought that the heavenly enchantress would still be able to remain elusive before the Holy Emperor, who had reached great perfection. This completely exceeded Jianqin's expectations. Has the heavenly enchantress' strength increased in the past few years because she gave birth to the innate chaotic body? Jianqin thought to himself. At the same time, he thought about what the sword spirits had said. The mother of the innate chaotic body would be blessed by the heavens and possess limitless potential. A strange light flickered through Yu Yu's eyes. Although she had not heard the zither music in the bright moon divine hall, she had already guessed many things from the conversation between Ruijin and Jianqin. She arrived beside Jianqin and gently held his arm. She did not show any dissatisfaction, only deep curiosity. She gently asked, Jianqin, who is the person who secretly assisted us? She's so powerful that even Senior Ruijin was unable to discover her. Jianqin hesitated. He looked at Yu Yu and said, She calls herself the Heavenly Enchantress. Others call her the Heavenly Enchantress. If she hadn't assisted us earlier and destroyed the origin formation of Changyang Prefecture, we probably would have been in quite a lot of trouble. Jianqin paused. Before Yu Yu could ask any more questions, he continued, Now that the problem of Changyang Prefecture has been dealt with, let's immediately set off for the Heavens Incense School. Senior Blackfish's poison is extremely deep. His life is in danger at any time, so we need to obtain the antidote as soon as possible. Ruijin and Honglian became stern when they mentioned Blackfish. They both understood just how powerful the poison was. Even the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force could not be removed. If they could not obtain the antidote, even if Blackfish was a holy emperor at great perfection, he would still die. They had already learned the location of the Heavens Incense School from Changyang Zuyin Shao. Afterward, Ruijin ripped open a space gate and sent them several million kilometers away. The Heavens Incense School was a rather unique existence among the 10 protector clans because it was a protector clan famed for its poison. The most common and most powerful method of attack in the Heavens Incense School was not the devastating saint tier battle skills, but the unrivaled poison. At the same time, the cultivation method they practiced was extremely special. Their vast saint force was also filled with various powerful poisons. Their use of poison had reached the apex long ago, where no one on the entire Tianyuan continent could match them. The poisons of the Heavens Incense School came in all sorts of strange ways. They possessed all sorts of methods, and they would often poison their targets without them noticing. Some of the more powerful poisons could even threaten Holy Emperor-level experts. This was a boundless prairie. All kinds of weeds had already grown to a height of 3 to 4 meters. The branches and leaves were flexible and strong. In the sky above the prairie, the white clouds had already pressed down to a height of 100 meters. They gathered together and did not disperse. No matter how the wind whistled, it could not blow away this thick layer of clouds. Jianshan hugged Yu as he hovered 3 meters in the air with Ruijin and Honglian. The tips of their feet gently touched the grass. They seemed as light as a feather, where even the fragile grass could support their weight. Up ahead is the entrance to the miniature world of the Heavens Incense School. I can already vaguely sense the spatial pulses unique to the World Gate, Ruijin calmly said as he stared ahead. Their gazes were all focused on the empty space in front of them. In their line of sight, there was nothing but a vast expanse of green. At this moment, a faint green figure flashed by. The tip of an unnamed plant beneath Jianshan's feet suddenly split open, forming a huge green mouth the size of a head. It was filled with sharp thorns, and slivers of viscous liquid slowly flowed within. It bit at one of Jianshan's feet with unbelievable speed. The sound of a weapon snapping rang out. Not only did the sharp teeth in the green mouth fail to bite through Jianshan's skin, but they also snapped off instead. Slivers of green viscous liquid stained Jianshan's pant leg that had been bitten, melting it almost instantly. The green viscous liquid was extremely poisonous and corrosive. Jianshan did not seem to sense what was happening beneath his feet. He continued to stare ahead, but in the next moment his leg that was still bitten by the green mouth trembled gently, directly shattering the green mouth and the branches below it. Ruijin and Honglian did not look at what was happening to Jianshan. Ruijin murmured, "These planes have been modified in the past. They can block out many people. It's probably the doing of the Heavens Incense School." A sliver of malice flashed through Honglian's eyes. She said, "I can burn these planes to the ground with a single flame." Due to what had happened to Blackfish, Honglian did not have a good impression of the Heavens Incense School. "I seem to know about these planes. These planes are known as the Oasis of Death by people. There are no magical beasts living in the Oasis of Death, only various strange plants. However, almost every single one of these plants can cause fatal harm. Earth Saint Masters have a slim chance of surviving if they enter, and even Heaven Saint Masters can't fly over. Due to the layer of clouds in the sky, Heaven Saint Masters can only fly below the clouds. They can't fly more than 100 meters above the ground. However, there are many plants in the Oasis of Death that can extend their flexible roots to 100 meters in the air. They can wrap around heaven's saint masters who pass by and suck them dry, Jianqin said with a heavy voice. Looks like this oasis of death has harmed quite a few lives in the past. It would be fine if this place grew naturally, but it just so happens to be modified by the Heaven's Incense School. As one of the 10 great protector clans, they've actually created such a vicious place to harm lives. I don't think the Heaven's Incense School is anything good, so let me do a good deed, Honglian coldly said. As soon as she finished speaking, a scarlet flame surged from her body. With her at the center, it turned into a ring of fire that rapidly expanded in all directions. This was no ordinary fire. Although it was just a casual attack from Honglian, its power could not be underestimated. Wherever the huge ring of fire passed, all the plants were reduced to ashes. Even the soft soil on the ground had been burned to hard rock. All the roots that had taken root in the ground had withered away. The ring of fire expanded to 10 kilometers in diameter before it began to disperse. In just a single moment, an empty area appeared around Jianqin's group. The ground was black with cracks, and the smell of burnt flesh still lingered in the air. 5 kilometers away, flames surged into the sky as black mist surged. Although the ring of fire with terrifying heat had already vanished, it had ignited the plants in the distance. The flames slowly spread towards the entire oasis of death with unstoppable force. Wherever it passed, the ground would be charred black, leaving behind a thick smell of burnt flesh in the air. Suddenly, the space before Ruijin's group began to ripple. A 2-meter-wide world gate suddenly appeared, and a short, bald old man in black robes emerged. His face was filled with anger. Who dares to do this? Who dares to do this? How dare you? Who set this place on fire? What this is outrageous. The oasis that we worked so hard to nurture has been burned to such a state. Who did this? Stand up for this old man. Even if I take your head off, it won't make up for the sins you've committed. The bald old man immediately cursed in exasperation when he saw how the oasis had been burned to such a state. All of his attention was focused on the oasis that had already been reduced to a sea of fire, so he did not notice Jianqin's group. Of course we did. However, your Heaven's Incense School may be one of the 10 protector clans, but you're still lacking if you want to take our heads off, Jianqin sneered. Who dares to challenge the authority of the Heaven's Incense School? Don't they know that the Heaven's Incense School is dash? The bald old man became even more furious, but he became tongue-tied halfway through a sentence. Like a bucket of cold water had been poured over his head. His anger was completely extinguished. He looked at Jianqin, Ruijin, and Honglian with a pale face. At this moment, he finally recognized who they were. The bald old man reacted extremely quickly as well. He vanished with a swish, and the world gate closed as quickly as it could. The bald old man seemed to have lost all his strength in a single moment within the miniature world of the Heaven's Incense School. He sat on the ground powerlessly as sweat dripped from his forehead. He constantly gasped for breath as deep fear remained in his eyes, even though he was a saint ruler. Why have they come? And they've burned down the oasis that we've spent so much effort to nurture as soon as they've come. They've come with ill intentions. It's over, it's over. We're in big trouble now. The old man's voice trembled as his heart was filled with fear. He had once witnessed the battle between Ruijin and Honglian against the Holy Emperor, which had left an indelible shadow in his heart. As a result, he was extremely afraid of Ruijin and Honglian. I need to report this to the schoolmaster as soon as possible. The bald old man suppressed his fear and flew into the depths of the miniature world in a panic. Chapter 1199. The master of the Heaven's Incense School stood in front of the world gate with a group of experts. He did not give off an overbearing presence, nor did he show any displeasure or anger. Instead, he had a friendly smile on his face. He seemed like an amiable person, not even glancing at the burning oasis in the distance. I am the schoolmaster of the Heaven's Incense School, Legend. I welcome you on behalf of the school. If you don't mind, please come into the miniature world and have a seat so that I can perform my duties as a host," the schoolmaster of the Heaven's Incense School said with a smile. In reality, he had lost the courage to fight when he saw Jianqin, Honglian, and Ruijin standing there motionlessly, as well as the bright moon divine all hovering in the air. "Humph! Our friends were just ambushed by the Heaven's Incense School a few days ago. It's only been a few days since we last saw each other. How did the Heaven's Incense School, one of the 10 great guardian clans, suddenly become so hospitable?" Honglian sneered. She was already equipped with the 9 refined Godfire feather, while the scorching Godfire hairpin hovered above her head. She was ready for battle. "It's a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding." Legend did not become angered at all. He said apologetically, "Esteemed guests, the situation back then was just too special. The temptation of the saint's fruit was just too great, enough to make many holy emperor experts do crazy things. At the same time, our Heaven's Incense School was forced to make that choice. We had no choice, so we sincerely apologize for the situation back then." Jianqin, Ruijin, and Honglian could not help but look at one another when they saw Legend apologize so humbly. Before they had come to the Heaven's Incense School, they had already guessed that there would be many possibilities. He had guessed many things that could happen, but he never thought that it would end up like this. The oasis that the Heaven's Incense School had painstakingly nurtured over so many years had been burned down by Honglian. Not only was the school master not angry at all, he had even given up on his lofty status to apologize to them. They found this rather unbelievable. After all, the Heaven's Incense School was one of the 10 protector clans of the Tianyuan continent. As one of the most powerful clans on the continent, they obviously had a side of pride. Ruijin stood with his hands behind his back as a profound smile appeared on his face. He gently said, "I never thought that the schoolmaster of the Heaven's Incense School would actually abandon his status to apologize to us. This has truly exceeded our expectations. Jianqin, you should deal with this matter. Honglian and I are only responsible for fighting." Jianqin nodded slightly. The light in his eyes flickered as he stared at the people of the Heaven's Incense School. After a moment of thought, he said, "Esteemed schoolmaster Legend, the experts of your Heaven's Incense School used the poison of Heaven's End on Senior Blackfish in the Death Nest, causing Senior Blackfish to still be tortured by the poison. His life could be in danger at any time. Don't you think that's a joke if you want to resolve such a deep grudge with just a few words? Jianqin is right. In order to express our sincerity, we are willing to offer the antidote to the poison of Heaven's End, as well as 5 Class 8 monster cores, 20 Class 7 monster cores, 100 Class 6 monster cores, and 500 Class 5 monster cores, as an apology. We only hope that we can bury the hatchet." The master of the Heaven's Incense School said sincerely. He paused for a moment before continuing. "Of course, we know that you don't need these monster cores at all with your strength. However, from what I know, you have a powerful mercenary group under you. With the help of these monster cores, that group of mercenaries will definitely be able to use them. With the help of these monster cores, their overall strength will definitely increase by quite a lot." Jianqin was indeed interested. Class 8 and 7 monster cores were rare items on the Tianyuan continent because basically all the powerful magical beasts were gathered on the Beast God continent and in the depths of the Cross Mountains. Aside from those 2 places, it was very difficult to come across Class 7 magical beasts on the Tianyuan continent, let alone Class 8 magical beasts. The Class 7 magical beasts in the Cross Mountains were protected by the Beast God continent as well, as long as the magical beasts did not break the rules. Even the experts of the protector clans could not slaughter them so easily. As a result, Class 7 monster cores were priceless on the Tianyuan continent, while Class 8 monster cores were completely extinct. Jianqin was more than happy to have the Heaven's Incense School take the initiative to negotiate. After the battle in Changyang Prefecture, Genshin had gained a completely new understanding of the heritage of the Protector clans. If the Protector clans used all their heritage, he would not necessarily be able to gain any benefits. So it was best if he did not offend the Protector clans. Moreover, his enmity with the Heaven's Incense School was nowhere near as deep as in Changyang Prefecture. At the same time, Genshin needed the monster cores provided by the Heaven's Incense School very much as well. After a moment of thought, Genshin said, "It's not impossible to turn hostility into friendship, but we'll have to raise the price." "Brother Genshin, may I ask how many you want? Why don't you give me a number so I can consider it?" Legend let out a sigh of relief inside. Their Protector clans did not lack monster cores. As long as they could resolve the matter peacefully, they would not mind losing some wealth. Even the Protector clans did not want to offend experts on the level of Ruijin and Honglian so easily. Moreover, Genshin possessed the Saint's Fruit. Before long, a true Holy Emperor would appear beside him. A crafty light flashed through Genshin's eyes. After seriously pondering for a while, he said, 5 Class 9 monster cores, 20 Class 8 monster cores, 60 Class 7 monster cores, 500 Class 6 monster cores, and 3,000 Class 5 monster cores. Legend's face darkened more and more when he heard Genshin's number. His facial muscles twitched unnaturally when he heard the 5 Class 9 monster cores. The Heaven's Incense School was very rich, but even with their wealth, it would still be a loss for them to obtain such a large number of high-class monster cores. Why, you've gone too far. Do you think these high-class monster cores are easy to obtain, especially Class 9 monster cores? Do you know just what kind of powerful magical beast would be able to produce a Class 9 monster core? An old man beside the school master fumed with rage. In his eyes, Genshin's group was robbing him, and they were robbing one of the 10 Protector clans, the Heaven's Incense School. Genshin crossed his arms and smiled. Of course I know. Only magical beasts that have reached the level of the Holy Emperor can possess Class 9 monster cores. However, your Heaven's Incense School is a Protector clan that has existed for over 1,000,000 years. You must have quite a few Class 9 monster cores. Monster cores can't be stored for too long, or the energy inside will solidify or flow away. It might even turn the monster core into a piece of tough rock. We have indeed obtained a few Class 9 monster cores in history, but there aren't a lot of them. However, our clan still consumes some of them, and once they exceed the time limit, they will be used by the experts of the clan. There are extremely few that have been preserved to this day. 5 is indeed too much. We can give you 2, the schoolmaster said with a darkened face. Genshin shook his head. No, not a single one less. Aside from the monster cores, I also want a Saint tier cultivation method from your Heaven's Incense School, as well as a Heaven tier battle skill that matches the cultivation method. Remember, I only want your poison attacks. Don't try to fool me with cultivation methods from outside. Legend was speechless. Only now did he discover that Genshin's appetite was far greater than he had imagined, and there was no room for negotiation. Our Heaven's Incense School never passes our cultivation methods to outsiders. You're dreaming if you want our Saint tier cultivation method. Schoolmaster, they've gone too far. We can't compromise. Let's fight it out with them. Our Heaven's Incense School is a mighty Protector clan. When have we ever been bullied like this? Do you really think we're afraid of you? The saint rulers behind the schoolmaster could not hold back any longer. They all furiously called out as their eyes were filled with fury and deep humiliation. As members of a Protector clan, they had never been so humiliated before. Genshin said, "Esteemed schoolmaster Legend, it looks like I must declare that before we came to the Heaven's Incense School, we already paid a visit to the Protector clan of Changyang Prefecture and engaged in a great battle with them in the miniature world. We've already experienced the power of the Emperor armament, encirclement formation, and origin formation, but they were still unable to keep us here. Instead, they reduced their miniature world to a mess and injured countless clansmen. I don't think a few monster cores can compare to their losses. Chapter 1200. What? Changyang Prefecture has activated the Origin Formation? The expressions of the master of the Heavens Incense School and many of the saint rulers suddenly changed when they heard about the Origin Formation. They possessed Origin Formations as well, and they understood the power of Origin Formations extremely well. It was exactly because of this that they were so shocked. This was because the Origin Formation was a powerful formation that could easily kill even Holy Emperor experts. Its power was limitless, yet Changyang Prefecture had failed to kill Jianqin and the others after activating the Origin Formation. This naturally shocked the experts of the Heavens Incense School. At this moment, all the people who had been clamoring earlier obediently shut their mouths. They no longer dared to say anything else. Changyang Prefecture was powerful enough to rank in the top 3 among the protector clans. On the other hand, their Heavens Incense School only had 6 Holy Emperor experts, and none of them had reached great perfection. Although they knew how to use poison, their overall strength was not as great as Changyang Prefecture's. If even Changyang Prefecture could not do anything to them, how could their Heavens Incense School be their opponent? Schoolmaster, if what they've said is true, our Heavens Incense School probably isn't their opponent. At the same time, there are many poisonous plants in our school. If they enter the miniature world, they'll probably destroy all the plants. These poisonous plants are the lifeblood of our school. We can't afford to lose them. Although the poison of Heaven's End can pose a threat to them, the 4 elders were heavily injured after using the poison of Heaven's End in the death nest last time. They're still recovering in seclusion, so we don't have the power to use the poison of Heaven's End a second time, the old man beside the schoolmaster said through a communication technique. He was extremely stern. He was one of the great elders of the Heavens Incense School, as well as the only Holy Emperor expert present aside from the schoolmaster. The master of the Heavens Incense School, Legend, also became extremely solemn. If Jianqin's group entered the miniature world of the Heavens Incense School, the losses they would suffer would be far greater than what they had suffered in Changyang Prefecture. This was something that they did not wish to see. This was because the unique poison techniques of the Heavens Incense School required the use of poisonous grasses to cultivate. They had planted a large number of poisonous grasses in their miniature world. If they were destroyed, it would affect the overall strength of the Heavens Incense School. It might even cause the school to fall into a period of decline for a very long time. All right, I agree to your request. Legend had no other choice. She gritted her teeth and agreed to Jianqin's request. Even with the Heavens Incense School's foundation, the loss of so many high-class monster cores would be a huge blow. In particular, the loss of 5 Class 9 monster cores made Legend's heart bleed. Afterwards, Jianqin received a large number of high-class monster cores, a Saint-tier cultivation method, and a Heaven-tier battle skill as he wished. At the same time, he fulfilled his agreement with the Heavens Incense School and stopped causing trouble for them. Jianqin and Ruijin returned to Lore City with the antidote for the poison of Heaven's End. They fed it to Blackfish as soon as possible. After ingesting the antidote, Blackfish's complexion visibly improved even though the poison had not been completely purged from his body. Blackfish no longer used his own power to suppress the poison. His face that had become blackened from the poison smiled. We finally dealt with this damned poison of Heaven's End. I almost lost my life. This poison sure is powerful. It's fine as long as you're fine. You're a mighty Saint King at great perfection with the protection of Origin energy armor. Yet you almost died to the poison. You're really something, Honglian mocked as she stood there in her fiery red robes. She seemed to be mocking Jianqin as well. Blackfish became embarrassed for once. He was left speechless. No matter what, Senior Blackfish's matter was caused by me. If it weren't for the fact that I wanted to take the saint's fruit, Senior Blackfish would not have been poisoned. Seniors, I really must thank you for your assistance in the past few days. Jianchen will remember your kindness and will never forget it. Jianchen clasped his hands at the three of them one by one. He spoke from the bottom of his heart. If it were not for the assistance of Ruijin and the others, he would not have been able to obtain the saint's fruit, nor would he have been able to seal up Changyang Prefecture. He would not have been able to use the deterrence of Ruijin and Honglian to steal a large number of high-class monster cores from the Heaven's Incense School. Honglian looked at Jianchen. Her eyes were faintly red and flames seemed to leap about in her eyes. She said, Jianchen, keeping you alive is the greatest repayment you can give us. Jianchen obviously attributed all of this to the winged tiger. This was because he really could not think of any other reason why Ruijin and the others would follow him aside from the winged tiger. Moreover, the winged tiger was the god of magical beasts, while Ruijin and the others were people of the winged tiger. Coupled with the fact that the ruler of the beast god continent wanted to kill the winged tiger, it was only natural that the three of them would step forward to protect the winged tiger. Although Blackfish had obtained the antidote, he still needed some time to purge the poison from his body. Jianchen and the others chatted for a while before going their separate ways. Ruijin and Honglian had both been quite exhausted from the battle in Changyang Prefecture, so they both went off to recover. Jianchen and you walked side by side, strolling through the large Changyang Prefecture. All the patrolling guards knelt down and bowed when they saw the two of them. Their eyes were filled with fanatical admiration. Jianchen ignored the guards. All he could think about was how to distribute the large number of high-class monster cores he had just obtained. He did not plan on using the monster cores for himself. Although the number of monster cores was astounding, the amount of energy he needed to break through to the fourth layer of the chaotic body was just far too tremendous. Even if he absorbed all the monster cores, he might not be able to break through to the fourth layer. If he used the monster cores on the Changyang Prefecture and the Flame Mercenaries, they would indeed be able to increase their strength by a large margin. Jianchen's face suddenly changed. He looked into the distance and saw 4 red specks appear in the distant sky. They were hurrying toward Changyang Prefecture with lightning speed. In just a few seconds, they had entered Lore City and stopped outside the entrance of Changyang Prefecture. They were 4 middle-aged men in blood-red robes. They were all emotionless and had cold gazes, without the slightest hint of emotion. A layer of faintly discernible yin energy wrapped around their bodies, causing the surrounding temperature to abruptly drop, causing others to not dare to approach them. 2 ruddy old men appeared at the entrance like ghosts. They emotionlessly stared at the 4 middle-aged men in blood-red robes. One of them coldly asked, "What are you people from the Bloodsword sect doing here?" "They're looking for me." A clear voice rang out from behind as soon as the old man finished speaking. Jianchen strode over with you following beside him like a little bird. The 2 ruddy old men smiled kindly when they saw that it was Jianchen. They nodded at Jianchen before disappearing in a flash. Jianchen did not know the names of the 2 old men. He only knew that they were saint rulers of the Zhu branch. In terms of seniority, he should call them great-grandfather. The 4 protectors of the Blood Sword sect greet the sect master. The 4 middle-aged men in blood-red robes all knelt on one knee and spoke at the same time. Jianchen hurried over to help them up. The 4 protectors had once done Changyang Prefecture a favor. They had basically saved several thousand people in Changyang Prefecture. He had never forgotten about them. Jianchen called the 4 protectors into his hall and asked, "Protectors, may I ask why you've suddenly come to find me?" "Sect Master, the old Sect Master has already stepped down many days ago. We've come under the orders of the Vice Sect Master to invite the Sect Master back to the headquarters so that we can hold a ceremony for the new Sect Master and plan the future of the sect," the first protector politely replied. "Protectors, may I ask if anyone in the sect has any objections to me inheriting the position of Sect Master?" Jianqin tapped the table rhythmically as he stared at the 4 protectors in interest. Sect Master, your strength speaks for itself. Everyone in the sect, including the Vice Sect Master, supports you inheriting the position of Sect Master. No one has any objections, said the first protector. Jianqin nodded slightly. All right then. However, I still have some matters to attend to before I go to the Bloodsword sect. Protectors, please stay in the residence for a few days. Once I'm done with my matters, I'll go with you to the Bloodsword sect. As you wish, Sect Master. Afterwards, Jianqin went to find Changyangba. He took out 500 class 5 monster cores, 100 class 6 monster cores, and 10 class 7 monster cores from the Heaven's Incense School, and gave them to Changyangba to nurture the forces of Changyang Prefecture. As for how Changyangba would distribute the monster cores, Jianqin did not care. Afterwards, Jianqin entered the artifact space. There was a majestic hall in the center of the artifact space. At this moment, Jianqin sat boldly on the throne in the largest hall. Behind him, a white-robed, scholarly, middle-aged man stood there silently like an attendant. The middle-aged man was the manifestation of the artifact spirit. He was the ruler of the artifact space. At this time, a group of dozens of people walked into the palace in an orderly manner. Their footsteps were very light and did not make the slightest sound. They were completely silent. All of them were tall and sturdy, with strong waists and strong backs. Their bodies emitted a valiant aura that was abnormally powerful. After consuming the flesh and blood of the serpent dragon, their bodies had clearly been strengthened. Greetings, Captain. A total of 66 men all knelt on the ground as they called out with a deafening cry. The slogan was loud and clear, and it was so loud that it seemed to be able to topple mountains and overturn seas. Jianqin did not say anything. His bright eyes flickered with a strange light as he slowly glanced over each and every one of them. The more he looked, the more satisfied and happy he became. In the end, he could not help but smile. Suddenly, Jianqin stood up from the throne and strode down. He said, Good. You've all improved extremely quickly these days. Out of the 66 of you, 43 have already reached the 6th cycle, while the weakest of the remaining 23 have reached the 4th cycle. I believe that you'll all reach the 6th cycle as well before long. You really haven't let me down. Kyle said, Captain, it's all because of Captain's unrelenting support that we have today. Without Captain's support, we'd probably only be able to reach Earth Saint Master with our talent. Even Heaven Saint Master would be an extravagant hope. Chapter 1201. Jianqin was extremely satisfied. He said, I, Jianqin, promise you that your future accomplishments won't stop at Heaven Saint Master. You'll become Saint Rulers or even Saint Emperors, who are like legends in your eyes. However, you must remember that not only do you have to be loyal to me, but you also have to be loyal to the Flame Mercenaries. You're a part of the Flame Mercenaries. In the future, you'll be the protectors of the Flame Mercenaries. Captain, we can forget our names, but we can never forget our mission, a large bearded man called out. A bearded man in the crowd said loudly. His fighting spirit was high, and his eyes were filled with firm conviction. Jianqin smiled. He felt extremely proud inside as he looked at the group that was brimming with vitality. This was because the group had been created by his hands. He was the one who had turned a group of mercenaries with mediocre talent from the bottom of the Tianyuan continent into the experts they were now. However, Jianqin had invested a lot in creating a group like this. Whether it was heavenly resources, monster cores, cultivation methods, or battle skills, he spared no effort in providing them. Even ancient clans would struggle to invest so much. He had even specially gone to the divine realm of the sea realm to obtain the divine water of the world for the sake of the group, all to make up for their innate deficiency in reaching sainthood. At this moment, Jianqin took out a space ring and passed it to Kyle. He said, There are 200 class 6 monster cores, 30 class 7 monster cores, and a saint tier cultivation method and heaven tier battle skill in there. Distribute it to the people who need it. Jianqin was willing to invest as much as he could in order for the group to reach his goal as soon as possible. Right now, the Flame Mercenaries needed a powerful force that belonged to them far too much. Yes, Captain. Kyle excitedly accepted the space ring. His hand trembled as he held the space ring. As soon as he thought about the 30 class 7 monster cores and 200 class 6 monster cores in there, his heart surged. Cultivate well. Once you become a saint, you can leave this place and go to the outside world. Jianqin did not stay there for long. With that, he left the artifact space. When he returned to the Changyang prefecture of Lore City, it had been less than half a day since he had returned from the Heavens Incense School. Of the large batch of high-grade magical beasts he had obtained from the Heavens Incense School, apart from the 9th and 8th grade magical beasts that he hadn't touched, he had already squandered most of them. Of the 67th grade magical beasts, only 20 were left. Of the 606th grade magical beasts, only 200 were left. As for the 5th grade magical beasts, there were still 2,500 were left. Afterward, Jianqin asked Changyang Zhu Yinshao to construct a space gate so that he could take Yu to the base of the Flame Mercenaries, Flame City. Jianqin silently moved through the palace-like city, Lord's estate at the center of the city with Yu. They approached a heavily guarded study. Jianqin used the powerful abilities of a 9th heavenly layer saint ruler. Even though there were many experts hidden in the surroundings, no one discovered him, allowing him to enter the study silently. It was a very large and extravagant study, covering an area of several hundred square meters. A faint, unique scent that only belonged to scrolls wafted through the air. At the front of the study, a woman in a white robe was sitting there, reading a book with great concentration. The woman looked to be about 20 years old, and she had a heavenly beauty. Her glossy black hair was simply coiled behind her head with an exquisite hairpin. The hairpin emitted a faint purple light. It was made of incomparably precious purple gold and was very expensive. The woman vaguely gave off the presence of someone who had been in a high position for a long time. A middle-aged man and a middle-aged woman stood on either side of the desk. They were both Heaven Saint Masters, and they silently protected the woman who was reading at the desk. At this moment, the door to the study opened silently. Jianqin and Yu walked in side by side. Then they didn't seem to do anything, but the door to the study closed automatically without making a single sound. The two Heaven Saint Masters had their eyes fixed on the door the entire time, so they discovered Jianqin and Yu as soon as they entered. Their gazes immediately sharpened, and just when they were about to yell out, they discovered that the space around them had actually frozen. The two of them were tightly bound to the spot, unable to move at all. They did not even have the ability to speak. At this moment, the woman was completely oblivious to what was happening. She was completely engrossed in her reading. Only when Yu walked up to the desk and gently knocked on it did she snap back to her senses. However, when she saw Jianqin and Yu suddenly appear before the desk, she became stunned at first before becoming overjoyed. She immediately stopped reading and arrived beside Yu. She held Yu's hand in an extremely affectionate manner and excitedly said, "Brother, sister Yu, why have you come? Why didn't you send someone to tell me beforehand?" Yu smiled, Sister Lian. We wanted to give you a surprise, so we came to find you without alerting anyone. You won't be angry, right? Bai Lian pouted and said with some dissatisfaction, "Brother, sister Yu, I'm more than happy that you've come. So why would I be angry?" Afterwards, Bai Lian arrived beside Jianqin and hugged Jianqin's arm intimately. She looked at him hopefully and said, "Brother, you're the captain of the Flame Mercenaries. Do you plan on staying a little longer in your territory this time? Then I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. I've specially come for some important matters, so I'll be leaving very soon," Jianqin smiled. Bai Lian immediately became disappointed. However, She also knew that her brother basically spent all his time running around and had a lot of matters to attend to, so she did not force him. "Humph, you sure live a leisurely life as the captain of the Flame Mercenaries. You've left such a huge mess for your sister to take care of, yet you don't care about it at all. You spend all your time sightseeing outside." At this moment, an old voice rang out from outside. The door to the study opened, and Bai Hai walked in with his hands behind his back. Bai Hai had originally been cultivating under Mercenary City with Huang Tianba, but he was worried about Bai Lian's safety. As a result, he left Mercenary City midway and returned to Flame City. Genshin and Yu Yu bowed to Bai Hai as juniors before Genshin retorted, "Great-grandfather, I don't agree with what you just said. I'm not sightseeing on the Tianyuan continent. I really do have important matters to attend to."